I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen.
Hello listeners, welcome back to another episode of Tactical Awareness. It is Season 1, ITS 14, Episode 11, and we're into the final sectorial for Haq-Islam Assassins Bahram. Now, if you haven't caught up with parts 1 and parts 2 of the Haq-Islam reviews, you might want to check those out. We go in depth into some of the other units that we don't sort of dive into too deep in this episode. Obviously, we're building episode to episode, so those other Haq-Islam episodes might be useful. But I'm joined now by Owen and Dan to talk about what's been going on this week and break down this faction. So let's jump in and see how they're doing. We're back with Bahram, and it's colder than Carbonate's. Actually, it's going to be the week after colder than Carbonate when most of you listen to this. And Owen is actually planning on taking Assassins Bahram to the satellite tournament, meaning we're going to do a breakdown now of the army he's planning to bring. He's waffled back and forth with Double Maggie and all the other various hack factions, but he decided the Sunday Book was just too delicious. And so I think the die has been cast. He may change it last minute and wildcard me, but you never know. So how you feeling about Bahram compared to the other three factions? Give us an overview. What do you think the advantage here is?
I mean, the thing with so we haven't got into it too much yet, and we've kind of talked as we've gone through QK and Task Force about how like these are kind of, except for QK, but Task Force is like a pillar in Haq-Islam of all of the like, here we go, let's go kill him profiles. And QK is like, yeah, I can kind of do that. And then Assassin Bahram is the other side of the coin where it's like, we're going to kill you, but it isn't going to be straightforward. I'm not going to run at you shooting like a Namur or a Magariba Guard or a pack of Kawari or whatever it is that comes running at you. It's going to come from the left and from the right rather than everything else. And it just appeals.
What's the blunder you step into in the case of Sundakbut?
What is the nightmare of Fidei, Farzan, Shujay, Sundakbut, Rajik Muyib, Mutt, and Daylami, and Barid, and Lasik.
And we'll talk about all that after we go through the profiles at the end. But basically, Owen decided he wanted to play Chaos as opposed to playing any type of like linear path to victory. He wanted to play a list that was just pure Chaos. So what about you, Dan? Because you're going 2 and you're taking O12. I assume you're not taking Starmada because you've kind of flexed back and forth between the fire teams, but you liked the flexibility of O12 the last time we talked.
No, I hate fire teams. I hate them so much. They're just they feel like a crutch. They're obviously awesome, right? But
and they have mechanical power. Like they add like straightforward mechanical power to what you're doing.
But I feel like it actually limits you in strategic placement and actions, and so for that reason, I don't like them yet. I'm sure I could be won over. But as of this point, until I collect my Druze with my EM grenade launcher,
I like how that happened in the Discord today. Someone's like, I have these extra Druze that I'm not using. And Dan was like, I like EM grenade launchers. We talked about that last episode.
I think the official words are the idea of a 5-man link EM grenade launcher.
Right. So is that what you're saying? Is when we do N2A armies in season 15, you're gonna do Druze Bahram security? Is that the plan?
They just look so bad that I'm going to do it. Because now that it's Monday, everyone's listening to this. I've won colder than Carbonite.
You have, that's right.
Yes. I've just done so well. I have to challenge myself by doing
something to play down. You're going to play halflings. That's the plan. You're going to play halflings now. You've won the Blood Bowl.
Snotlings. Snotlings I think are better than halflings.
I think Snotlings are significantly better than halflings. I think halflings are starting to scrape the bottom. That's cool. So O12 then, and you've like settled on a list. You were talking earlier about how the Beast Hunters have become a new fave.
Yeah, just being able to have them either as a mine layer or as a pretend mine with a heavy flamethrower is just kind of, it makes it, when they're attacking you, it's just one more thing to deal with. Link Sniper is becoming my favorite sniper just because you can snipe things all day and then go back into camo.
Yep.
Which is really nice. it's just annoying, and you can put them on the far corner. Hopefully, there's some kind of elevated something you just pop on, and you can deploy them last and secretly. And so when they deploy their little dude that's camo on a rooftop near you, you're just like, well, I'm here, and I discover and shoot you. And with Whip 14, they're also good at doing that. So
That's awesome.
I've been really enjoying them. And then yeah, so it's just a bunch of either weird stuff, and then Joe being a hidden lieutenant, you don't know where she is, and then having a Raven Eye instead pretending to be a lieutenant in the corner. It's just a good time. So yeah, I have that kind of list, and then I have a Zeta list that I think I'm going to bring. I might change my mind, but I think just having the Zeta to just go ham on somebody with Climbing Plus, I think not a lot of people are completely ready for it, and it's just hard to defend against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. The whether or not list 2 is for a scenario or list 2 is for pairings, and I think making your list 2 can go either way. And Owen and I are talking a little bit about his list 1 and list 2 not loving exclusion zones and having a list 2 that like dealt with exclusion zones. I think that whole idea of like, if you have a pairing that you don't love in O12, having that Zeta be in one of those 2 lists so that you can be like, no, in this one, I climb on the rooftop. I climb on the rooftop and I raid burst 5 AP, damage 16 shots on everything that I can survey. And then sometimes
it also
I just
depends
stick to the rooftop.
on the map even. Like,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking more is like, I think, well, there's one list I only want to fight, and it's like Power Pack, and I'm happy with that. But the other ones I could probably go with either list. So really, it all depends on the terrain. I think is going to be my biggest decider on what list I'm playing.
Yeah, and he doesn't care about terrain. he just goes for a walk wherever he feels like going for a walk.
Right, and so it's like, how bad is your terrain placement going to be, or how bad are you going to be able to hide on different, like, it feels a bit gamey. Like, it's like, okay, well, if it's a tournament and there's only so much terrain, and what if there's a table without tons of terrain? Well, Zeta seems really good, but also really bad, because if I can't hide him and he gets to go first, then I could get shot off the board. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's probably a good idea to bring a size 7 template with some like poster tack underneath it, so you can just start sticking it to things if you need to during the turns.
Like, I printed off a cylinder of size 7 with my resin printer, so I can just be like, bop, 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 bop.
Yeah, get some of that blue tack. Get some of that blue tack. You can stick it anywhere and just be like, he's on suppression. Oh, cool.
I guess that's true. Just bring some blue tack and stick it on the side of buildings.
Yeah, you can just be stuck to the side of a building on suppression if you want to be. And like, remember, it's the whole front half of your cylinder that sees.
I guess the good option of that is there's no worry of anyone coming into base close combat with you, except if they have.
Yep.
Wait. Can you super jump, touch them, and then come back down and close combat them?
Technically, yes. You definitely could. No, because you can't leave silhouette contact without dodging after you've entered it.
How does that work? You just can't enter silhouette contact then?
You'd also have to have climbing plus in order to stick to the wall next to him.
I'm confused.
It's like you wouldn't be able to enter contact with him, I don't think, because you'd stick there. I have no idea, actually.
You see what I mean? It's like
that's an incredibly weird. Like, you just tackle him and then stay there until you super jump down. I don't know, because you don't. Yeah, that's a very weird. If you entered silhouette contact with something stuck to the side of a building because you super jumped, once you're in silhouette contact, I think your only options are to dodge or CC, and I don't think you can leave silhouette contact during the move unless it's in like a null state. That's a good one, listeners. You chime in on that one, because I have no idea how that would happen. If you didn't have climbing plus and you entered silhouette contact during a jump, I don't know if the rules even cover that. That's a pretty corner case.
You're welcome,
Dan, with the lateral thinking. Well, hopefully, we'll get to do some day 1 and day 2 recaps when you guys are good and sauced. What's that?
It's actually vertical thinking.
Oh, sure. Okay. Thanks. We'll get to do some day 1 and day 2 recaps and hear how it goes. And you guys have had a couple drinks, so bring your earbuds and your phones, and we'll see if we can actually hear how the days go as you go through.
Sure.
For me, I have done nothing Infinity related since we last talked. Apart from like some of the like kind of technical stuff for getting ready for Spring Offensive. The MRRF Army, that's the one of the big golden ticket raffle prize for Spring Offensive has now shown up. So we have it in hand. I'm pretty excited about that. And then I did manage to get in and do an interview with Jordan from Whip 12, which was nice. I do apologize because I didn't have my cough button apparently working because it was using my laptop's audio when we recorded, so you can hear gross dad noises the entire time. Because I have a cough button on my mic normally, so I'm always clearing my throat to make sure I'm talking okay during these podcasts.
Ash, I
Normally
love your
can't
dad.
hear it. What's that?
I love your dad noises.
You love my gross dad
they're
noises?
so good.
You normally can't hear them. Like normally, no one has to listen to that stuff because there's specifically a cough button on my mic for that exactly that reason. So yes, I haven't done very much. I started building some more terrain. I did discover you can order Tinker Turf's colored cardstock terrain on Amazon.ca. So I ordered a bunch of containers and a bunch of the crates to do a new table. And I built my Hlock Station expansion table to try and get the 11th table built so that two people can bring 2 sets of terrain for Spring Offensive, and I'll have the 11th table, which will mean that we are good and covered basically for terrain for the whole event. All right, well, there's the recap of the week. We did get to see some profiles and stuff too. We can talk about real fast. We had a little splash spoiler for Bakunin, which looked pretty cool. New Moiras, a couple new crazy heavy infantry models, which look pretty cool. We're not sure what they are, but they have a real like nomad military orders kind of feel to them. There's a big size 5 heavy infantry, it looks like too, which Owen swears up and down as a tag. Because it's got little arms. He thinks that if you got little arms, you got to be a tag. You think it's going to be a tag? You want to be a tag.
Yes.
I think they'll save the tags for the expansion box. I don't think it'll be in the action pack. I think they'll have that in the regular box. It'll be like an Azrael or a Alpha Z instead.
That's probably true.
You may be right, but I want you to be wrong.
Yeah.
That's fair. There's a Sin Eater. Looks like a Prowler too. Prowler Killer Hacker, that profile. And maybe it's a moderator with like an engineer gun, or maybe they just have their own clockmaker because they don't like the clockmaker with like the devil tail, the devil horns. They're like, she's making fun of the church. You can't do that. But the models look really cool. They have a real like cloistered, almost Sisters of Battle kind of vibe to them, which I think is kind of cool.
It's neat. I don't know. We'll see.
I want to see what the freaks look like. I still want to see what the Uberfall Commandos and the Morlocks and all the Freak Brigade look like. The people who are like the people that are trying to help, basically.
I hope they don't go the route that they did with all of the like movie tie-in characters, because I actually didn't like that.
Yeah,
the other Nomad faction got.
Yeah, I've got my old moderators are like Colossus and
I have the Suicide Squad set and like
I have the one that's it's like I have a Benicio del Toro miniature. It's like what? Why? And a Gamora and a what's the other one? The dude from one of the moderators is the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy. The Peter Quinn's like fake Ravager dad. Can't remember his name.
I've got Harley Quinn and like that whole pack. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather like just make your own things.
Yeah. So keep it to your universe and don't like break the fourth wall.
I get that maybe in universe people would dress up as characters like that and modify themselves because like that's the gimmick of Toha, or not Toha, the Nomads and whatnot. But it ain't gonna be for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's what I mean. Like it's so far in the past to be like people like being like, I want to be cosplaying as Marie Antoinette. You know what I mean? Like
it's the Star Trek problem where everyone seems to know things about the 20th century. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't believe you.
You shouldn't know shit about this period.
You're just going to know the names of those characters of like presidents from countries that have been gone for 400 years.
You shouldn't be listening to jazz, Will Riker, and playing jazz. You should be playing some kind of like weird quasi World War III post-punk. Yeah. I like the Children of Men version where the old man played by Michael Caine is listening to Roots Manuva, because like that's when it should be in time. It should be me basically when I'm 80 growing my own like weed in the woods with my mentally deteriorated like partner, who was poisoned by the government because they were writing radical literature or whatever. Like that was the like proper take on it, where you have this like this anachronistic thing where this person you think should be listening to classical music is listening to like, indie hip hop from the UK.
Yeah, makes more sense. So once again, no one's going to dress up like the Suicide Squad this year. Never mind 200-300 years down the line.
Yeah, it's not going to be Negan and Harley Quinn making out in Halloween.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dive in. There's a few new profiles in this one, but I think as far as
there's a bunch of new profiles.
Is there? I mean, there's a lot of overlap here too, I think.
There's a lot of overlap, but there's a whole, like, basically all the Super Soldier program got put to bed except for one guy. And now it was like, who's a guy wearing a hood? And like
it's the Assassin program.
This is Hood faction.
Yeah. This is the Assassin sneaky faction. So anyone with Assassin before their name is typically the new stuff that's in this, and then Yara and stuff like that. So you want to do the same as last time? We'll do it by classification, by type.
There's 13 people with Assassin in their name in this.
That's what I mean. And yes, those are the new profiles.
We'll go by type. By type. Which is to say light infantry first and then alphabetically. So Sounds the good. First person is a mercenary doctor, Avicenna, who shows up in like 2 or 3 other factions. But
she's a hack doctor. She just operates as a mercenary, like outside of Haqqislam.
Yes, this is her home base. Though they gave her a combi rifle. It's so funny, the background where it's like the male historical figure of Avicenna, who is like a doctor in Spain or something like that, if I recall. And then they like messed up trying to imprint the identity, and it turned out that it's a woman now, and that's why the model is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Avicenna. It's a hard sell for 27 points, but bioimmunity with no wounding cap and 6'2" on a whip 18 doctor is pretty slick in my opinion.
Combi rifle for that defense too. She's a slightly more expensive Rouhani.
ARO flash pulse as well at whip 18 effectively. Up to 24 is a pretty scary defense, but this is where like Rouhani, if he had gotten bioimmunity, I'm like, okay. And then she also gets 6'2". And the 6 move at the beginning with a doctor is pretty slick.
Big deal.
Like,
that's
what
deal.
You're doing. Mm-hmm. So solid doctor, expensive for 27 though. Like I try and bring her because I think she like exemplifies like the best of medics in Haqqislam, but
she's 2 Ghulam doctors. Yeah, she's literally 2. It's like she's 3 points off from being 2 Ghulam doctors.
Yeah,
at 15.
And she's like, oh, she's sort of 2 wounds because she's sort of got, and it's like it's not the same. Combi rifle's cool though. Can't go wrong with the combi rifle, and then the whip 8 or whip 15 flashballs, real slick. But the bread and butter, your garrison troops, the Daylami infantry, these guys are a mess.
I mean, but they're amazing too. Take Ghulams and just take the brakes off.
Yeah, take Ghulams and give them the irregular discount, and you get Daylami.
And also like strip off half their gear. You know what I mean? Like they all lose their rifles for the most part, except for one.
You basically stole all their rifles from them, but then you reduced their cost by like
half,
6 points, half to more than half. And then a few of them, you explained that you need to show up early to the battle, and so they snuck up with infiltration and a single use of camouflage, and notably have light shotgun Panzerfaust or rifle light shotgun for sub 10 points and no Swick.
So let's classify these guys, because these guys are like, there's 2 profiles that are midfielders extraordinaire, which is the camouflage infiltration 1 use, and like light shotguns and Panzerfausts and a rifle. Where do you envision those guys sitting? Like, how do they work? Because it's easy to say like, oh, they're cheap and oh, they have this equipment, but like, why is this good?
There's a lot of lists where you have 3 to 5 points kind of floating in my experience, and there's also often the ability to shave off 1 or 2 points, like go from a DA weapon to an AP weapon, you gain a point, stuff like that. And these guys are like a complete throwaway. They don't have any purpose other than, can I die killing something bigger than me?
Mhm.
And then they armed them with all of the equipment needed to make that happen.
Yeah.
Specifically in the infiltrating ones, because
Yeah.
you have a template and a explosive AP weapon.
We're talking
So
about the light shotgun Panzerfaust one here.
yeah, the rifle one I've never been able to really sell myself on, because they are only BS11. Like,
And because they're going to die. So if you're taking one chance to hit, you want it to land,
yeah,
right? Like, I feel like the rifle's there to be like this unlimited use thing. But if you only have one use camo and your whole point is to ARO peace trade,
and
that
you don't have
Panzerfaust,
surprise. Like,
that's right. There's no
you're
surprise. Yeah, you're not
penalizing
going
them.
back. Exactly. So, like,
So
that Panzerfaust is a huge deal.
you're going to want to do this in reaction, and you're going to want to do it. I mean, literally anything. Like, there's nothing in the game that you're going to be shooting that is going to be less than 8 points, and even those, the few items out there, like your 7 point like order bots with flash pulses, even knocking one of those out with a Panzerfaust is worth it because they lose an order.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their value is tied to, I can fill in the last few points of your list, and I can be a threat to literally anything in the game, and I can be like a multiplier where I have a real thing that my opponent needs to deal with, and then this is also just around. And because they have camo, you just don't react until you feel it's the right time. Like, if someone's walking around and they're in a big link and he's the only thing that can see them, just don't do anything. And if they go, oh, I'm going to discover you, all right, well, I guess it's time to die. Roll a dice. Oh, I rolled good. Guess you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the Leilani lifespan. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. So you can have a cloud of these. You can have, like, if you wanted to spend 40 points, you could have a whole second combat group that's just these disposable camo markers that can cover every conceivable lane of advance and create this thing that your opponent has to deal with. Like, no one wants to get hit with a Panzerfaust. And once the Panzerfaust is gone, you have these light shotgun guys just wandering around the table.
Yep. And you can bait
cheap.
stuff out. They have their own irregular orders, can move their camo marker around until needed. So you can get if you don't want to start off in a threatening position, you can just start like standing up and launching rockets if that's the way you want to go about it. You could coordinate a bunch of them because they are all the same like unit type.
Yep. Yes, or
order type. So you could do that if you wanted. And hey, in the same way, nobody wants to take 4 Panzerfausts. Like,
and that really feeds into the theme of this faction, which is this disruptive camouflage, like a lot of marker states, a lot of ARO presence out there that you have at your disposal, and your opponent doesn't know where it is or what it is.
And it's a lot of like blender of like a shotgun and a Panzerfaust are two ends of the spectrum of like how you're going to kill somebody. And so there's not a good idea of how do you approach any individual camo marker, because it could be literally anything, and it could be anything at any range. And so
there's no sweet spot really.
Yeah, and like the fact that you don't know what it is, and it'll come up more as we go into the other guys who have infiltration and camo and stuff like that. That there's people pretending to be other things, but my perspective on the Daylami, I don't know why you'd bring the guys who are not the camo versions. I mean, a 6-point Panzerfaust is a 6-point Panzerfaust, so maybe you just have some points to kill, and you didn't want to take a Mutawiya, which we'll get to, but just take the Mutt. He's just better.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's also like the psychological. If it's supposed to be if you've got 1 point, you know what I mean, between taking a Mutt and between taking the Daylami, and you actually want your opponent to see something too to make them nervous, there's a reason to take the one that's not in camo as well, I think. Right? Because it tells
that next point though becomes a jammer Mutt. And they know that that's a threat too.
Well, but you could also fit those in too, maybe. I'm just saying I think there is a psychological reason to tell your opponent that there's a Panzerfaust watching this sight line, maybe on the ground, dug in, that, you know, they don't want to come down for 6 points. That's not bad.
Yeah. You're gonna risk yourself for this one. And BS11 is basically 50-50s, everything that comes down that hallway. Yeah.
You land a Panzerfaust, you're gonna feel it no matter who you are. Well,
exactly.
Unless you have total immunity.
Unless you're a
bear. Unless you're a bear or a dog. They don't care. All right, who's next?
Fiddler's next. We've talked about Fiddler and the other factions, because I think Fiddler's in all 3 of these.
She is, yeah.
Fiddler loses a lot of momentum in this faction because there's so many people that are competing. pretty hard for that 20 something points. And if you're getting into the 40 ones, you're like,
That's 5
I'm an,
Delamies.
I'm an engineer. And you're
Like,
like, yeah, that's cool and all, but these guys aren't coming back anyway. Like,
yeah.
we're not here to fix people. We're here to remove people.
She's a bit more technical, right? Like she can move around and maneuver and get weird places with that climbing plus and the speed. And those contender bots or the Vulcan shotgun bots are pretty cool, but they're effectively just Delamies, right? Like
yeah,
without
all the
Panzer
power
Fist.
that she has, like the easy trades, the mobility, things like that. This faction has in spades in different profiles that are generally cheaper
and spread around, right? So like if you look at that, if you're spending 42 points on her, you're talking about like having a whole lot of Delamies, like 5 wounds with the Delamies compared to 2 jackbots and a fiddler with no wounding cap. So you've already up a wound basically there. And you're not worried about them dying, and you don't have to usually maneuver them anywhere because they all have infiltration to start off with, where she has to actually walk where she wants to go at the start of the game.
And yeah, like it's a lot, in my opinion, harder for her to make her case, because like a Lasik with a marksman viral rifle and 2 Delamies infiltrating are cheaper than her with her climbing plus jackbots.
And that doesn't make her bad. Like it's just about where she is in this like mix for the faction. It's just she's got a lot of competition.
Yeah, she's an awesome individual fighty model in a faction of individual fighty models. Like that is the other thing about this faction against the other two. These guys don't care about links. You can also bring link teams, and there are some scary ones. But like so many of these guys are individual, capable fighty pieces.
Yeah, one-on-one scrappers and flappers. And the range band she's fighting at too is covered by a lot of models. Maybe is a better way of looking at it too. Like there's a lot of templates and a lot of like 6 to 16 or 8 to 16 range band fighters in this list.
Exactly. Ghulam infantry. Ghulam infantry are the staple. Every faction, they're going to show up in Hak-Islam. I mean, they are the line troopers of Hak-Islam. And one of my favorite things about Hak-Islam as a faction, as we move towards like the sum of the whole faction, is the fact that Ghulams are so ubiquitous. Like I've played other factions where their line troopers are like, yeah, because I have to fill some points. But Ghulams are so like, yeah, I got that. I could do that job. I'm pretty good at that.
We really saw that when we compared them to
Seals.
Yeah, who again aren't bad in their own faction, but it's that same thing as when they have to compete against these guys who have such a laundry list of like profiles and things that like create this great efficiency, like that doctor profile or the NCO grenade launcher, right? Who can go into a fire team or into a Harris and let you spend
even just their base ability to be like really effective at the things because of that whip buff that they all get, and then the handing out shotguns to everybody.
Yeah,
like you all got a shotgun, which is to say everyone got a template weapon. So if things go bad and there's someone really scary after them, they can trade their lives and win it. Like you're gonna jump up. You're gonna jump on my link with that impersonation. All right, he shotguns.
Yeah, there's no option for that in line infantry in the rest of the armies.
Yeah,
like they don't. Actually, I guess you have light. No, I was gonna say you have riot stoppers in the
O12
Kappas, don't they? Do the Kappas have riot stoppers? Like riot stoppers? No, they don't have them.
The blue coats do.
The blue coats do. Yeah,
but they're not your line.
They're the only one I can think of that might have had like a direct template in the line infantry. I think everybody else doesn't, unless you're getting into like specialty line infantry, which is like the Caledonian volunteers and stuff like that. But then they don't get the rifle.
And even the volunteers, like it's only certain profiles that get them. Like they have to go back and forth. Whereas these guys are just like, it's the basis. It's like, this is where we start. And
these guys are it.
So these will be in your Baram lists because they will be in every one of your Hak-Islam lists because they're just that useful. The next guy, though, is the first assassin boy. And this is the Barid.
Oh, God, I love this guy so much.
He's just like
it's a shame you only get 2 of them.
Hacker. Yeah. Well, you'll never get more than that because I think you only get 1 in vanilla. Like this is where they were like, you know what? Let's stretch. Oh no, you get 2 in vanilla. All right, whatever. Sure, why not?
But they're amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing in whatever profile you bring them in. They have obviously they're the heroes of hacking in the Hak-Islam faction, in my opinion.
They translate that great whip into all their hacking devices, and they all have pictures.
Yes, they all have pictures. Even the non-hackers carry the pictures for dirt cheap. They jump to BS12, which is good because much of Hak-Islam sits only at at the BS11, and so with their pitchers, they get up to 15s to hit the target when they're accurately shooting those pitchers out, which helps not only themselves but potentially anyone else. And yeah, specialist profiles with Arm 1 BTS, and they have BTS 3, which like 15-point Barid hacker with a rifle, pitcher, pistol, killer hacking device with upgraded Trinity -3.
So now you're fighting at -6 Trinity because you're going to shoot the pitcher and hack through that, and you're going to have effectively armor 6 because you'll have the pitcher cover the firewall mods, right? Like you are for 15 points.
So this guy's going to
absolute
3
assassin.
dice whip 13 or whip 14 you as his hacking program with a down play of 6 against you
and armor 6 back.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, and
he crushes for 15 points.
15 points, and he runs with the Ghulams. Like he's a linkable guy in the Ghulam links. Now he doesn't make it so that they get the benefits of being.
We should probably talk about that. Actually, we didn't do that this time. We need to go through the fire team chart, but that is it's Barids ×2, Ghulams ×4, and Avicenna is your Ghulam fire team, and you can do a Harrison core. And then the Assassin Baram one is Govads, Moyibs, Lasiks, and Bakhtars, which can do duo Harrison core.
With the Moyibs and the Govads being both Baram, which
and then
is
your last one is the Shakush.
Yeah, you can bring a duo of 2 Shakushes.
Well, they can also wildcard with Muyibs, Asawiras, Yasbir, Leela, and Yara.
Yeah.
But that's it. You don't have a lot of fire team options in this. There's really just the 2 and then the armored fire team. So that's it doesn't happen super often.
The 2 is kind of 3 because the Govad, Muyibs, and Lasiks are all kind of their own thing. And then the Bakhtar could
the Ghulam has to have Ghulams in it though, right? The other one can have any of those guys because it's just a Baram fire team.
Exactly. But you could have like both is I guess what I'm trying to say. But yeah, Barids are great. They're great.
They have a mixed lieutenant profile too. I would mention that lieutenant hacker hacking device profile. I probably wouldn't take because your lieutenant all of a sudden is hackable. Yeah, that's the one profile I don't love. The FO one's pretty cool though. I like the idea of a rifle pitcher FO because you can use that lieutenant order to spec fire pitchers. Yeah, throw pitchers if you want.
This faction has chain of command. Which is great because not everybody gets that, and this one does. So you can play risky like that with your lieutenant and theoretically plan for it.
But 2 of those bird killer hackers is 30 points, and if you're talking about assassinating people, they are fantastic,
real good,
real good. For their point cost, especially, right? Like
they're solid on their own, and they're cheap.
Yeah, and they're super cheap. Absolutely.
This guy could easily be a 20-point model and still be perfectly fine.
And don't forget you can hollow mask too at the end of that round, right? So you can be hiding because you have that killer hacking device. So you want to hide from being hacked back. You can just be like, I'm gonna disappear.
Exactly. The next assassin is Yasbir.
Your first impersonation guy. So outside of the aliens, this is your first human impersonator.
Nope. No impersonation for Yasbir.
Oh, that's right. Yasbir doesn't do that. Did he used to? Who am I thinking of?
He hollow masks.
Hollow masked.
And hollow projectors.
Oh, poor Sticky man. Poor Sticky man with the sticky hand.
We'll get to him. He's at the bottom. Yasbir, he's on my list of like the top 3 Dire Foes miniatures. Not necessarily because of his sculpt, which I don't think is the greatest, but because of his pure like, I can do it.
Utility.
Yeah,
he has an FTO profile and he has a going it alone profile.
Yeah, his FTO profile is a wild card who works with Ghulams and Barams, which is to say basically all your link teams except for Lasiks. Mm-hmm. He will not interrupt their link bonuses. And inside that, he's going to have drop bears, a light shotgun +1 burst, a viral close combat weapon, and hollow mask. I actually really like the hollow mask combined with the fact that he's pretty good in melee. Like he's not the best, but viral CC with martial arts 2 and CC 22 means that he can fight pretty good. And one thing about the link teams in this is unless you're throwing in a wild card, they're all kind of bad at melee. Like if a melee piece gets in there, they're gonna get beat up. The Ghulams, the Govads, the Muyibs, they're like, yeah, I'm guy with weapon. Even the Bakhtar, who we'll get to, is like tag stats for CC. Like he's not that good of a fighter. But Yazbir, who could be pretending to be generic Ulan boy,
yeah,
when they're like, I move into CC, and you're like, oh, I pull out my knife.
Yeah, I think it's need to make him bait, make him like an obvious lieutenant or something like that, and then have somebody come and try and melee him. Like if you know you're going to be facing melee troops, have somebody try and melee him, and you're just like surprise because he's MA2, so martial arts 2, CC 22, BS 12, Fizz 13, which is legit for dodging, Whip 14, Arm 1, BTS 3, and then he's BS Tech +1 damage. So that light shotgun's actually damage 14, which is pretty cool, and so is his rifle.
Yeah,
immunity shock. He's a specialist natively, and he's got stealth and religious. So with Hollow Mask and all that dropped in, he's not bad at fighting in melee, but he also does some surprising gunfighting.
And he's the same points as Avicenna.
Yeah, he's 27 points.
Which is why it's like, oh, poor Avicenna. Like this is who she's got to compete with directly. Like this guy is like a monster in comparison. And then he does have a more expensive profile, which I actually like more than his linkable one, which is the infiltration rifle, light shotgun +1 burst, smoke grenades, and then hollow projector, which gives him surprise attack -3. And so he infiltrates up the board and it's just in your face right from the get-go.
Yeah, and he clears mines and he clears boost weapons like a boss because he can throw those hollow echoes up into those things and let them all go off on it and just die. And so I love an infiltrating like hall projector. If I knew I was going up against things that are going to be mine laying like crazy, nomads, any of that stuff, it's going to be like midfield mine laying and dropping all kinds of like just like hail markers and stuff everywhere. He's a legit piece.
And with his smoke grenades, he can like efficiently move up a part of him to blow off the mines and all that, while putting smoke down to cover for other people in his faction.
Like, he ironically is a great answer to Sonic Bud. He's a really good answer to Sonic Bud.
Yep. That's why you bring two. Anyway, we're gonna get there. The next assassin, another light infantry, which is kind of their jam, is the Lasik. This is like an old profile that got a facelift at some point where they basically
one of the OG assassins.
Why don't we just make them slightly better by giving them all +1 damage and a new weapon? Because they never had the marksman rifle.
It's legit.
If your buddy plays bear pods and anapodes and he's constantly beating you up and you're like, man, I hate total immunity. This total immunity is awful. These are your dog hunters. Because you can link them. They have climbing plus. So theoretically they can sit on the side of a building and never get into melee unless that does or doesn't work. And then they're just going to dump fire rifles. Oh, they do have climbing plus? Okay, yeah. Perfect. So you go back to just classic shooting them with your +1 damage viral rifle, marksman viral rifle, or sniper viral rifle. And also X visors on the base viral rifles. And they have a specialist profile. Magnetism 3 and then BS 12. And armor 2 as well.
Yeah. Armor 2, immunity shock, Mim 3, climb plus religious. So the thing with the X visor is, and Clank Plus, is you just stick them to the sides of walls on suppression and just be like, come at me. Because you're suppressing, you're gonna be wherever you want, and you're gonna be at 0 range for the entire suppression roll. So if the one thing they don't do is infiltrate, so you have to get them there at some point. But
there's a way to get them up there.
Yeah, if you coordinate them up somewhere and then coordinate them on a suppression, you are making a nightmare reactive turn for your opponent with these guys. And they're not that expensive. The FO one's not +1 damage. I actually would just take the FO one for the discount. And then you've got specialist as well. And 2 of these guys, viral rifle, light shotgun, flash pulse, X visor, FO, stuck to a wall, suppressing is fantastic for 25 points. 50 points for 2 of these guys on and you have an incredible reactive turn potentially with Baram. These guys are a definitely a strong contender for part of that option.
Yeah, if you were worried about like anything, like if you're fighting dogs, if you're fighting whatever those factions are, you can have a Lasik viral sniper sitting in the backfield linked with Govads who have MSV, and there's no way you're walking into that. Like you can't smoke dodge them. They're going to be tapping you with viral rifle or viral snipers from way downtown. And they have mimetism on top of that. They're
Yeah,
great.
they're great profile. Again, I think the biggest problem with a lot of these reactive profiles in Braum is there's a lot of them, and they're all really good. So it's kind of pick your
Yeah.
poison.
So the next one is the Assassin Nadir. This is a weird profile because this guy is in this list twice, and it's very strange to me. Because I'm gonna break the mold for a moment when we go through this. But BS 12, Whip 14 as always, Fizz 11. It's got BS Attack Shock, Forward Deployment 4, Hidden Deployment with Mimetism -6, Religious Troop Surprise Attack, and then his weapons are basically short to medium range. He has some marksman rifles that he can get. He does have a mine layer profile, which is pretty slick. Um, he has a little bit of forward deployment, but not that much. And then obviously Mimetism 6. Um, he does have a Panzerfaust, which is wonderful. But the thing I find weird is that this guy exists as a solid, like, he can go and get work done if you bring him as a specialist, but he's really short range. But then further down the list, right down to the bottom to your SK troops, is the Shuje, who is like the same guy for basically the same points, and they just changed his gear around a little bit. And he lost hidden deployment, but gained specialist operative and forward deploy 8. And then his fizz went down, but they gave him +3 fizz dodge. And it's like, why are both of these profiles here? They're both like active turn hunter
they don't
profiles.
The Shuje doesn't have hidden deployment, but he's roughly the same price, which is interesting.
He got more forward deployment and specialist operative, which is I think where it went. And he's got a little bit more gear because he gains either a breaker pistol or D charges or EM mines, but he loses viral or he loses mine layer.
Hidden deployment is massive. You can have 2 of these guys hidden deployment, and Min-6 is massive as well, as is surprise attack.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
But there's a bunch going for this guy, but they directly compete with each other. You're right.
Yeah.
For this, and at the same point value. I don't know. I think the question you're asking is, what's the advantage of the Shuje over the Nadir when you lose hidden deployment and surprise attack and Min-6, and you have roughly the same
1 BS.
The
Oh
13s,
boy, yeah, they're 13s to the 12s, and you get terrain total instead of desert, like,
and 4 inches of extra deployment, but like,
yeah.
And most of these guns actually want to be up there, but then also they've all got marksman rifles and Panzerfausts, so like, you don't necessarily need to be that far up there either.
I found that I've never really used either of these profiles. I've tried to use the Shuje a few times, and I've gone back and forth on putting Nadirs in my list. But I don't know. I can't.
They do kind of suffer from the case of they do a lot of things in a list that wants each thing to kind of just do one thing really well. They're a bit toolkitty, right? In that, like, for 31 points, you're getting a submachine gun and a marksman rifle, and it's like, you're multi-classing at this point. And that's cool for hidden deployment -6 model.
Yeah, but I think the Nadir outpaces the Shuje because of the hidden deploy.
Yeah.
And he also just has some cooler profiles, like the Panzerfaust giving him that, like, hey, that camo marker is a -6.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever advance with these guys though. Like, I really like the AP marksman rifle, AP mines mine layer.
Yeah, right? he's my favorite out of this group.
Exactly, because you're not gonna, if he dies, you don't lose a specialist. A lot of missions like firefight, you don't want to be losing specialists. So if this guy is a kill piece or a reactive piece or a hunting piece, even, you don't want to have that guy go down and cost you an objective point at the end of the game. And he gives you some of that passive defense in the AP mines.
I guess the other thing too is that there's a third profile that competes with the 2 of these guys, who also does the same thing for around the same points, which is the Farzan, where he's also 23 to 28 points. He gave up Mimetism 6 for Mimetism 3, but he gained Infiltration.
And are we there yet? Are we at the Farzans? Or are we skipping ahead? All right, okay.
I'm like torn. Well, that'll be a skip ahead. Yeah. We'll get to him later, I guess. Okay. But yeah. Anyway, these guys are weird, and I don't have a good answer for how I feel about them, because I find that in a list of guys who are all like operatives, these guys are the, like, yeah, man, I could do anything. They're like, yeah, okay, but I want that guy dead over there.
Yeah, they're a hunting surprise shot piece, right? Like, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get in there and and hunt somebody down with mod stacks, and that's cool. That's a way of, I mean, if you look at all these pieces, they're all assassins. They're all trying to kill somebody.
They're literally, which version of this do you like?
Yeah, it's these guys aren't the touch you to death with viral close combat assassin. These guys are the walk up as like hidden deploy, move to an unadvantageous angle on you, and then
remember,
shot you with like
deployment,
-12 mods.
They don't have a marker state. They do this one time.
They don't have camo?
They don't have camo.
Oh, bizarre.
Yeah, like they're
weird... I didn't even notice that. Oh, they don't have a camo state. Oh,
so like him and the Shuji turn into the same guy. It's just whether or not you saw it coming. Like that's the only difference.
And if they don't attack on their, so you actually have to stand next to them so that they can see you in that first order, or you never get that surprise attack.
Yeah.
That is.
Now it means that they can
I didn't even put that together just by looking at the profile. I was like, surprise attack, maybe -6. They must have camouflage. I didn't even notice they didn't have camouflage.
Yeah. So they do it once.
Oh yeah.
They have Mind Layer, which is neat because it means you're going to put down that MIM3 token, and there are a lot of those here, or at least there's a few that are particularly scary. But yeah, it's strange. It is a strange thing that exists in this faction that I'm not sure how to handle. He's cheap though, I guess, for what you're getting, like 20 something points.
For his potentiality, yeah. He's really, really like. Actually, now that I'm looking at him, now that I know he doesn't have camouflage, that like SMG one, if you can put him somewhere you know a tag's gonna walk by, and then have him surprise shot with a tag, or the Mind Layer one with the AP Marksman rifle, and have him get into like a bad range band of a tag.
See, that's how I felt about the Panzerfaust one. Yeah, like when the Daylamis all wake up, and then this guy also wakes up, and you're like, wait, that one's not a Daylami? No. He's a +1 BS Daylami. Oh, I'm gonna shoot him. Oh, sorry, he's -9 to shoot at. My mistake.
Yeah. He coordinated 4 Daylamis into a tag.
Right.
Panzerfaust.
Yeah. So like,
but you're right. He's one shot, and then he's basically stuck just leaning into the MIM -6 to do that job,
which is what the Shuji is doing. Again. Yeah. They're like I said, they're a strange profile that. Like there's value. No,
they're not
there.
Strange. They just I don't think they're strange. They just very specifically do one thing once, and that's not the case with a lot of the other profiles in this list.
I guess I consider that strange because, like, unlike the Daylami who do one thing once, these guys aren't 8 points.
But they're 26 or 27 points, which I think is why they're 26, 27 points. Not having camouflage is what's keeping them in that more conservative point range for what they do.
Right. Yeah, that's them. Leela's up next. We've talked about Leela a couple times because she shows up all the time as a Ghulam. She's her role actually goes down a lot in this faction because the Bereeds exist.
Yeah.
She's a good kind of like point man for a Ghulam link if you really wanted her as like a fighter. But now it's like, why? You could just bring Yasbir or an Asawira.
If you really want to hack her dead, you coordinate Leela and 2 Bereeds, and you all Trinity somebody.
Can't coordinate hacking.
Can't you?
No.
Nah.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, never mind.
If you really want to hack her dead, all of them are pretending to be other things.
That's right. Yeah. And just like, all the Bereeds pretend to be Leela. Leela's just the model used to have the Bereeds pretend to be her now.
Oh, no. They can't even... They don't have Hollow Mask. Yeah, I don't know. I think she's still as good as she has been everywhere else. It's just... Like they were like, hey, here's cheaper, better looking, younger version of Leela.
Five like, points less for the Bereed. Yeah, because the Bereed can get his killer hacking wherever he wants with that picture.
And his Trinity's better than hers. Flat out. Like it's just better because it imposes a -3 for no reason.
Yeah, it's through the picture too. So if you do it through the pictures, then
because she could do it through that too, but his is just better because of that upgrade.
Yeah. I'm just saying the equipment that he has stacks on top of that to make it even better.
Now we get the Ghazi Mutawiya, the hero of Hawk Islam, so powerful that they had to break him into 5 profiles.
They did. They shot it. He was like an Infinity Stone in the previous edition. They had to break him into 5 separate pieces to undo his power. I was on the receiving end of 4 Ghazis every single game for half of N3, and I'm still here, folks.
They broke his profiles, took his weapons, nerfed his weapons, changed his way he functions, and he's still great.
But
perfectly solid.
Right. He's perfectly solid. Yeah. So just for the, and again, this isn't super useful for the listeners that we're talking about it, but basically there's 5 profiles here that used to be 2 profiles. So it used to be that for 5 points, you got a chain rifle, smoke grenades, Emarat, jammer, pistol, and close combat weapon, or a boarding shotgun, Emarat, jammer, smoke grenades, pistol, close combat weapon for like 9 points. And now
it used to be both 5. Yeah.
They were both 5. The shotgun was more expensive.
Shotgun was 6. I think it was 6 or 7 or something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, they took all the special gear. Everybody kept their gun, and then everybody's special gear went into a separate profile. So now it's chain rifle and smoke grenades, or chain rifle and Emarat, and chain rifle or jammer. You don't get all 3 pieces of special gear on a single profile. Other than that, I think they're identical.
The other massive change is that jammers have ammunition now.
Yes, jammers are
jammers are disposable too. They used to be just
unlimited.
Jammers are a weapon that you won't encounter much in this game because there's only like 4 profiles that have them.
No, there's more now. The hecklers have them in nomads.
I'm including them because there weren't many before that.
Yeah, fair enough. The whatchamacallit, the Zulu Cobras have them now in Pano. I think all the factions got one.
Maybe. I don't know about you, Ching, but the jammer is a zone of control comms attack with no limiting targets. So it's not like heavy infantry or tags or whatever. It's just whatever you want. And it's a damage 13 or you're isolated.
Yeah, shut the radios off.
Yep.
Doesn't work great against Morats. Everybody else works great against.
Yeah. And Morats, they certainly challenge it, but these guys, they trade lives with Morats and they trade up every time.
The big problem they have now, because the thing they used to be able to do really well is they used to use their smoke grenades to get there. So they would just nestle themselves into as many people being in zone of control as possible. And like an Alabama tick, they would dig deep, and every order was punished for the reset. Yeah, that too.
Where they're like chain rifle, Emarat, smoke grenade, jammer, or pistol. What am I going to do?
Yeah. So, but now they've kind of become either cheap smoke or a template e-weapon. I think the Emarat is actually very attractive still for 5 points.
He outdoes the jammer
as a defensive piece, and I think he now outdoes the jammer. Yeah, for 6 points. I think of these 3 profiles, and also the boarding shotgun, it's worth taking, but you're getting into spendy Gulam territory now because it does combine the smoke grenades with both those other pieces of gear. So if you take a boarding shotgun, you do get the jammer and smoke grenades, but it's 10 points. And if you take the boarding shotgun and Emarat, it's 9 points. So you can still kind of get the stacked equipment, but you're paying a premium for it now. You're paying almost twice as much as you used to get it all stacked together.
Yeah.
I feel like when I look at the Raven Eye in 012, and I'm like 12 points for an Emarat, even if I didn't have the mines and everything, it's a solid deal. So yeah.
Well, I mean, consider too, look at the stat line of this guy, because he's courage, dogged, and impetuous, but he's Fizz 12 with 15.
He's getting there. If
you can
smoke
intuitive
he's
weapons
definitely
too.
There. Yeah. Oh yeah. So you can smoke and then Emarat into the smoke.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And then
take that, Zeta.
With dogged is you can mess up ones and be okay. You're like, it's fine. I wasn't coming home anyway.
And if you take the boarding shotgun one with smoke grenades, which I think that's the profile I'd actually be interested in, I think, with these guys now. That profile is still got a kill template too, because it still has the boarding shotguns 2 damage 14s, right? So like you do have a bunch of flexibility in that model. And it's a point more than a Daylami, but I think it's still really good. It's 2 orders worth of Daylamis because it's impetuous, and you're going to use that impetuous to run up and smoke probably every turn and go try and Emarat something. I still really like these guys. I feel like they've gotten a bad rap because they got such a clearly heavy-handed N4 treatment with people that used to use them. I think they're still great for 9 points.
They're still great. They don't have and then I spent 20 points on Ghazis and began building my list.
For sure. You're taking them for a reason. And you're actually taking them as little baby McMurrows now.
And you have to actually use them. You can't just be like, I don't give a crap. Like they go, they die, whatever. It doesn't make any difference to me. You have to deal with this. They're a
nightmare for tags. They're an absolute nightmare for tags. And Emarat with smoke grenades, unless you're running into a Marut
or heavy
any
infantry.
Tag gets scared of that. Yeah, or heavy infantry
too, but heavy infantry, or even just groups of people, because it's still isolation, right? Like,
oh yeah,
unless you're running into Morats, and then if it's Morats, you just use the chain rifle, and you're like, Silly 15.1 wound monkey.
Or the boarding shotgun, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you don't get it all right. I think I think the jammer is, if there's any profile here, I think the jammer's over. I wouldn't bother with the jammer anymore because the Emerat does the jammer's job basically as a template, and you have the versatility of the smoke grenades on top of it. I think that 9-point boarding shotgun Emerat smoke grenade profile is the one, and I think two of those backing up McMurrow is a strike team extraordinaire for screwing with heavy infantry and stuff.
I don't like that the jammer is 6 points compared to the Murat. He should just be 5. All 3 of those first ones should be 5, and then the jammer would still be able to compete for his role because it's an Emerat without line of fire.
Yeah, the jammer's got legacy problems. People are so scared of it.
The jammer has some Toha issues going on with it.
The jammer's got some people still have some real bad memories, I think, going on for things that happen with jammers.
Yeah, I'm okay with. I like the ammo thing, but I maybe make it stronger or something. I don't know. It's fine. Mutts are fine. Perfectly good unit.
I think two boarding shotgun ones. I think I would still start my list at 20 points, and it would be 2 boarding shotgun ones now, hanging out with McMurder.
So sure, it has ammo and everything, but anything out of line of sight attacking you is going to be costed more. And it's not even costed a lot more.
And one of the scary things about the jammer too is that because he's not a hacker, he's just like immune to hacking nets as he wanders up to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like normally when you're going to do that out of line stuff or out of line of fire stuff, you're a hacker of some kind that's coming up to isolate you. But the fact that he can just be like, doop dee doo, oh look, there's a repeater.
I think his biggest problem is not having it. You're taking the 10.1 then, because he doesn't have smoke grenades, right? Like that's his biggest issue. Is he used to be fairly disposable and could get there, but unless he'll really punish your opponent if your opponent null deploys, like for sure.
Yeah.
Your opponent just goes like, everyone's laying down. That guy's just gonna leg it 16 inches up the board in the first turn and be like, cool. Who wants to be all by themselves?
A lot of people null deploy against assassins because there is some threat coming at you.
Yeah, he's not a bad pot. If one in your pocket for 6 points. If you got 6 points, why not throw one in your pocket, and he can just go hum himself across the board and potentially win you the game in the first turn.
I think you should always have 30 points of random pocket sand in your assassin list. Did you pick Daylami? Did you pick Mutts? Like, which way did you go?
Yeah.
Something there that your opponent, like, you're just going to be like, look, they might never do anything, but that's your problem. That's not my problem.
Some folks won't eat a skunk, but then, some folks will.
Yep. Or the moment when someone's like, I moved past here, and the Ghazi's like, discover.
Yeah. Surprise.
Whip 15. Haha, I see you. Like, so long plan that you had. But we can get in that kind of later on. They have access to the engineer. He is the Hak-Islam engineer.
Najaren.
Thanks for coming, Najaren. Pandora.
I mean, you may take him because there are some things with structure you want to fix in this list.
Yeah.
Probably not remotes. This is one of those human lists that maybe doesn't, unless you need a 7-point order, maybe doesn't take remotes because you're not needing them for their, like, you're taking killer hackers to go assassinate hackers. They bring their own pitchers. They don't need any robots to go walk over there and do that.
Exactly. Pandora's in this list. The Steel Phalanx. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Latramantis. She's a Latramantis of the Steel Phalanx. Or Iatramantis, sorry. She is a weird profile.
Is that she's a hacker profile with pitcher and blah, 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 blah. Bareed exists in this faction. Get out of here, Pandora.
But she has a 2-burst medkit.
I don't need a doctor.
I know.
I got Ghulam. A Ghulam and a Bareed are basically her.
Sure.
For like...
She's really neat. She probably, like you're saying, doesn't have a huge amount of...
She's cool if you own the model.
Things. Yeah.
Like,
but she's the same points as Avicenna. And you have hackers who are super cheap.
And notably, she's not actually a doctor. She just has a med kit. So you're trusting fizzes to get up.
Yeah.
And once again, you don't go, I don't wake up for fizz anything less than whip 17 doctors. Like, I don't get out of bed.
That's fair.
Cool though. more pictures, more flash pulse plus one burst. Such a weird profile.
I know. And Maggie
Like, I
plus
like
one
it.
burst on a hacker. It's so weird. Pitcher pulsar, flash pulse plus one burst, Maggie plus one burst, viral pistol plus one burst. I mean, she's burst 2 in melee with her viral pistols, which is neat.
With her CC-17.
And her CC-17 and her dodge -6. If she dodges, you're -6 to hit her, which is weird. I don't know wounding cap. Anyway, I think she kind of falls in the same thing with Fiddler, where she's this really cool profile. It's only available to a few factions. She's weirdly in this one, but she's not necessarily outstanding at any of the things she does compared to other profiles in this faction.
Yeah, Avicenna, Fiddler, and her are all great like character models that each have like a lot of stuff. And this faction is like, well, that's cool. So anyway,
we also do that on somebody else
I've
that
got
also
that too.
fights and also
But
kills.
he does it well. He does the one thing he needs to do a little better,
And usually for cheaper.
and
Wait,
often
is it-
for cheaper.
Isn't dodge -6 is when they dodge against one of your attacks?
When you dodge, you impose that penalty to whatever's face to facing you. When it's a negative modifier on your profile, when you perform that skill, you impose the negative modifier on your opponent.
Oh, I see.
So if she dodges, she's Fizz 12, and you're whatever your stat is -6.
That's pretty good, but at the same time,
She's real hard to stop. Like when she's like in cover, like she's just dodging and imposing a -9 somehow. She's basically Domino. She's just super lucky and can't be touched whenever she wants to not get touched. Luck just always seems to go her way.
She suffers a bad case of being a hacker, and so they just melt her brains. She's also not a
That's
killer
true, yeah.
hacker.
Well,
And
she
so
has
they're like,
zero pain, and zero pain's a neat.
please don't kill me, Arrow.
Please
Yeah.
don't kill me, Arrow. Yeah. So she kind of also has that -6 in Arrow, right? Because of zero pain. Where she's like, -3, and you just don't do anything. And it's burst 2 an Arrow. So like if you try and Trinity her, she's burst 2 back and does a -3 to you.
And then the breed kills her.
And then the breed gets her anyway.
It's like, that's
true.
how that goes.
And the breed just goes, sorry.
I had 3 burst, and you're also -3.
And you're now whip 8.
Yeah, it's brutal. Another great. Next profile. We're getting into medium infantry now. We're skipping
Medium
Warhorse.
infantry. Hey, we finished the whole thing, and there's actually not that much medium. Just 4.
Yeah.
And we haven't done any of these so far. So hit me with the top one.
Govads. Govads are
Go-
the MSV in
Veteran.
this list, and veteran, which is great. Armor 2, BTS 3 with BS 12, so they're a little bit cut above. They're perfectly average medium infantry, but they have access to MSV. They can link, and that's kind of their whole claim, other than access to also having an engineer, Govad. So if you wanted to save points on bringing the Nigerian engineer because you like the Govad link, you can bring the engineer here to still have access to the ability to like peel off states on people, which I think is cool. There's not a lot of engineer profiles in this faction.
Yeah. And BS Tech AP. So he's got an AP light shotgun and an AP rifle. It's kind of neat.
Yep. APD treasures. I guess you can't use those as BS attacks, but
No,
BS
attacks. If you could
you have
shoot them somehow, it'd be cool.
Wait,
They have a
aren't
killer
these charges
hacker.
automatically AP? I don't know.
Your
think
Gizmo
they
kit's now AP.
there you
Yes.
BS Tech Gizmo kit.
Amusingly, they all have breaker pistols as their offhand, which
And
doesn't
the
come up
missile
too
launcher's
often.
+1 burst. The missile
But
launcher can fight you in melee with this CC-15 burst +1 medic pistol.
Like these guys are always going to be a link. They're always going to be a link of Govads because none of these are like, oh, I'm coming out by myself to solve a problem, because Yara, who we're almost there, is just better MSV than they are. But veteran is really powerful, and so if you're worried about the like isolation shenanigans that people have been getting up to, being able to bring a veteran link that has MSV and access to every one of the guns that you're going to want.
It's a
Can't go
real
wrong.
shame they can't be part of the Gulam Fire team.
Yes.
Because they would represent a fabulous ARO presence with the missile launcher sniper rifle and a Gulam doctor. For not that many points.
But for an Asawira doctor,
that's right. Yeah.
we're almost there. Yeah. Muyibs exist. The coolest Muyib is the mine laying viral mine Muyib. Hey, doggo, dodge this.
That's true. Yeah, 26 points
Um,
though. We're looking at you're looking at a quarter of 100 here, so a 12th year army basically.
yeah.
Um, in any of
Uh,
these
uh,
profiles for the most part, they're 24 to the TAC aware X Visor Spitfire decharge one is 34. He jumps 10 points, which I think
yeah.
is crazy, but he does bring an extra order along with him. But for
Which
25 points, you can have the same guy with a heavy rocket launcher
instead of a Spitfire,
instead of a Spitfire, which is pretty great. X Visor heavy rocket launcher with TAC aware is pretty cool, especially if we're talking about the bioimmune number 2 religious dogged and BS13.
BS13 is their claim to fame, in my opinion. Bioimmunity is cool. I like Armor 3 instead of Armor 2. Sure. A lot of them have Panzerfausts. Some of them have smoke, as in their lieutenant option has it. So if you wanted to get away from NCO Gulam with smoke grenade launcher, who I love and bring in basically every list now, this guy could do it himself. But again, with the Muyibs are in the same boat as the Govads, where there are so many individual powerhouses. These guys are your link. Like you have a link, bring these guys. Your Muyib with that TAC aware, he can join like half of the profiles in this faction, or they can join him.
Yeah,
and so
he's a wild card, isn't he?
He's not, but everyone around him.
All the Muyibs are wild cards. You like 4 Muyib wild cards.
My mistake.
Yeah. So they are. As I'm saying,
I was looking at it.
They're the Mrs. Dash, right? That's what makes these guys so great is they can mine like the fire team. If you want at the beginning of the game for 26 points with viral mines, and that TAC aware can be added to anything, right? That's why I like that heavy rocket so much because you can throw it in with like the Govads, you can throw it in with
the Gulams,
specifically the Gulams. That's where I think they really shine is because they can be made way less expensive by having the Gulams go with them.
That mine layer also has a Panzerfaust.
It sure does.
It's just a nice little nice little touch. NBS 13, which is a great buff.
And number 2, which means if somebody else is the point man and they die, this guy just drops to B and doesn't break your fire team.
They're also
I love Panzerfaust.
Avier 6. I wonder what it would be like to play a really Muyib heavy list. Just something out there because you could have a full link of these and then another one of them off with another group of people. I don't have that many Muyibs because I don't think there's a 4-man. There probably is, and I'm just wrong, but pretty neat. Something.
I think what's neat about them is they represent a higher than average BS for you, right? Because you don't have access to a ton outside your heavy infantry, and your heavy infantry jumps you jump from this like medium infantry in like the 25 to 30 point range to like, oh, now we're 40 points each, right? Like it's a steep 10 point jump, and
except
it's
for
worth
one
it.
guy.
It's worth it. Yeah, except for one guy.
Who's almost there. The 2 profiles away.
Yeah. Keep going.
The Rajik, the combat jump parachutist that exists in this faction. Whip 15 with BS 12, Fizz 12, and Armor 2. Only has 1 wound though, so he's not doing that.
Dogged though.
Dogged's great.
Dogged's fantastic.
Especially with shock immune.
He's offensive or expensive for a Dogged model. That's the one thing I'll say about him is like he's really spendy for a model that.
But it
means he gets expensive. There. It means if you're sending him to die though, he gets there.
For a combat jump guy, he's not that expensive. They all creep around 20 points. He's a little bit on the upper end of that, and I think it's because he's whip 15. In my opinion. Like Ariadna probably has a cheaper one, but even them, like, now I want to know.
The problem is he's not a specialist, and let's take the hacker, right? So that whip 15 only comes in to really play with him when he's the hacker. So I don't know. I want to like the Rajik because I like drop troops in general. I like the boarding shotgun one. He's like if you absolutely positively need to get the job done, he'll jump in dogged and then kill somebody, right? So like if he needs to jump into the middle of somebody and one person can see him, if he takes that wound, you don't care, and then he boarding shotguns kablam 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 whoever's nearby. I think that's how I look at him. As I look at him as like he's a disposable assassin. You treat him like that, and you send probably the boarding shotgun one. You could take it's a point different. I think you take the boarding shotgun one. Go danger close, show up where you need to be.
I think you probably take the rifle light shotgun, save the point, and still have a shotgun. 1 damage difference. I think it's
AP though. AP can be a
Yeah.
big difference, right? If
I think
you're
it's
AP though, AP can be
Yeah.
a big difference, right? If
That's
you're gonna
true.
drop behind a tag, you know what I mean, and just be like, "Kablam!"
Yeah.
AP can be a huge difference.
Please die in the first shot. Oh, you turned
Exactly.
around.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also falling into the like 25 to 30 point solo fighter man. Like the Shuji and the Nadir that we talked about earlier. This guy is right in the same line for points. His gimmick is that he has combat jump and parachute. It's like you could just walk in from the side as needed, but
Sure. Yeah.
I like the hacker only because he's what 15. But the breed exists. So you're like,
If you're not taking a missile bot, I don't know what this guy's doing with the hacking device, right? Because he's there to maybe perform a classified objective, or he's there to spotlight somebody.
I can see like a turn. Okay,
Oblivion
so like
somebody.
bottom of 1, you didn't want to lose any hackers. This guy shows up and then goes prone in their deployment, and he's just like spotlight, 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 and like. But the problem is like he's going to get killed by their killer hackers.
Yeah.
So maybe you can like shoot a picture up there. But then if you're shooting the picture up there, just do it that way. Like,
Exactly.
why bother with
right?
this?
Like, why bother? So I see him as like a very expensive niche piece trader, but he has to make that 60% fizz check to get there first. The combat jumps, you're probably going to parachute him in, which means he less needs the dogged. You know what I mean?
Or
to
you're paying
that
for
jump.
the Evo hacker to try and make it, but then it's an order, and then you brought this other, and it's
and
like
you've added 8 points basically.
Where are we going?
Play. Yeah, I just feel like there's more efficient ways to make the play. Like even the guy we talked about earlier with what was his name?
The Nadir.
Nadir, yeah, with his like AP rifle, you know what I mean, and hidden deployment. He's more likely to make that trade, getting where you need him to go, and then hitting the guy with surprise attack hopefully at some point than this guy is.
I just feel like it's bad. Like it's like you're not going to take an Evo hacker in this list, like in this faction. You're not really going to take that Rems. So
there's one guy to bring the Evo hacker forward, and we'll get there. Because
okay,
you could just dial it all the way up.
It's the trick. I guess the trick I'm saying is, you need to invest other resources to make something work. That he's not really a solo kill piece, right? Like if you need to stack additional things into this play, then you're looking at a major investment for maybe not as much return as you would get with that same boarding shotgun mutt with smoke grenades, who's 9 points,
or
right?
or Fade, who's exactly the same points, and he's just there already.
Yeah, he's just
he's already standing with the shotgun.
Yeah, he's just dressed like grandma, handing out with a shotgun right next to you.
Yeah, Yara Haddad though comes up again in this faction, and I think she's like way better here. Yeah, because for 3 points, you can give strategic deployment to a wild card. So she hands out 4-inch forward deployment to any link that she joins. BS13, MSV2. So if you're not going to go down Govads, you have access to smoke in a million different ways in this faction. Whether it's like Mutts throwing their lives away to get smoke up, Yazbir who started up there tossing smoke, assassins who are stopping smoke, smoke grenade launchers. You can play the MSV smoke game real good, and she's pretty good at it with an AP marksman rifle, MSV2, BS13, linkable with everybody. Like,
yeah, I like her. Bioimmunity gives her arm 3 and
shock immune too,
and she's BS13, like, which is again on the high end right now for assassins.
Yeah, I think she is great. That strategic deployment, it's more expensive. 28 points is pretty expensive for this, but it's not that expensive when you look at like a Govad who's doing the thing with MSV1, and in order for them to get the kind of long range weapons, they're looking at 26, 27 points, 1-2 points for an extra BS and MSV2, and you can forward deploy the link.
Yeah, she's legit. I mean, even just like if you think about this from like a strategic like missions point of view, there's so many missions where you just want to start over the line. Right. Yep. She's spending a few points for you to have points in zones in like supremacy or in
quadrant
cryogenics, like any of those missions, you will have your guys already over the line and ready to party, and you've spent 0 orders doing it. So I think she's well worth that, just for the idea that you could be 14 inches up at the start of the game and already be scoring points. And
I also think
VPs.
My perspective too has been you'd be surprised how much terrain changes to you when you have forward deployment. Like often when I play and like people set up tables or you show up at a table, people are kind of aware of where deployments are. And so they don't put big buildings in your deployment zone because they don't want to like really heavily skew a table. But they do often put them just outside deployment zone.
Yeah, and it pushes that fire team all of a sudden to be standing on top of like the mid-range building.
So guys like that Muyib with his X-Visor heavy rocket is all of a sudden a little bit ready to go. Like, or my favorite or at least the thing I think is the most scary one is the Lasik team, because all of a sudden marksman rifles are good range into your deployment right off the bat. They don't have to move. They just start in the 24.
Yeah. I was thinking the mine layer, actually, the Muyib mine layer, all of a sudden those viral mines being able to go up to 16. Yeah. Right. Putting viral mines up at 16 and having that like as an option protects your fire team. You're maybe into that midfield building now all of a sudden.
And the crazy thing is that all of these can come together all at once. You could have like 2 Muyib viral mine guys, her, a Lasik with a and viral marksman. Well, you can't have those guys all together.
They can.
Oh, sorry, no, the Muyib could,
because they're both wild cards. So you just go Muyib, Farid, and then
Dr. Gulam.
Doctor. That's right. He's like, I'm holding all of this together.
Yep, I keep the team alive for the deployment, that's all I'm here for.
Actually, that's right. Yeah, as long as that one Gulam Doctor's alive, he's the spirit of the heart of the city, the spirit of friendship.
But now, how does it work if the Doctor dies?
They're no longer.
I can't remake the link.
Yeah, you can't remake a link, but if it's still there, if it's still functional.
Well, the Muyib would be number 2, so technically it would drop to him, I think. But actually, I don't think it's no longer actually a link because no one has the Gulam name.
Well, I mean, you kick the Barid out and you become a Hassassin Baram Muyib team. With Yara as the attachment to a Muyib team.
Yeah, I guess that's
true. So you're like, oh no, the Gulam died. Well, Barid, you're on your own, buddy.
Yeah. Barid's all by himself.
But it doesn't matter, though, because the whole point is just to get that extra deployment. Like, for 3 points, gaining an order on every one of those guys, because it's a short skill, right? Like, that's a 4-inch move at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm. And the additionally deployed mines that are up further. Like, there's a whole bunch of like benefits to it.
Yep. Heavy infantry. Asawira Regiment.
Oh, so good. So tasty.
Probably the best fighter in Hawk Islam.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like, there's a couple that, like, I think the Namur can kind of fight with him, but this guy's just better. He's just built different. He's the one who went through the Super Soldier program, like Tarek did, but they didn't turn him into the Beast. Like, he
has one downside. Size 5. He does have one downside. He needs to be in a duo.
Need to kill people.
That's right. He just loves killing. And so the martial arts 2, frenzy, berserk +3, dodge +2 inches, immunity, shock, regeneration, stealth, religious troop. It's actually, though, the frenzy's a good thing because it's what keeps him cheap.
He's 6'2" movement, CC 23, BS 14, Fizz 14, Whip 14, Arm 4, BTS 9.
Just walks through
2 wounds. This was the guy when I made the comment that there is a point to bring that Evo hacker, because you can still put up fairy dust and he can be BTS 12 against hacking programs.
Yeah, you can firewall him.
And he goes, "Yep, I don't care. Oh, I'm going to turn off your armor. I don't care.
You could try.
I just don't care. Oh, you made it. It's AP, so I go to armor 5. I mean 8.
Yeah,
because the +3 mod is after. So I'm BTS 8 against your AP hacking attempts.
He's a real good friend with Muyib Doctor +3. Muyib Doctor +3 hangs out with this guy duoing him because it won't allow his whatchamacallit, his frenzy to trigger.
I actually think Muyib X-Visor Rocket Man is a good buddy.
Sure. Yeah.
Those two, because he's like, hey, I got a little bit of extra order for you, buddy.
It's true. Yeah, he gives him attack order too. Yeah.
Because the Asawira regenerates on 14s. So even if they take him down, he's more than likely somewhere between 80 and 100% chance.
And if he goes down the reactive turn, he actually pops back up in the duo, ironically, at the start of your next tactical phase.
Well, no, because it's in the same turn state. So if he dies active turn or reactive turn, If you
No,
pass
but he
the
doesn't go
regen,
back. He
gets
doesn't
up.
go back into the duo until your next tactical phase. So if it's the end
Oh, I
of
see
your
what you're
turn, he
saying.
comes back. What I'm saying is, if he goes down in the reactive turn, he's just back in the duo when he comes back because you get a chance to regenerate at the end of each player's turn, right?
Right. Yeah, so long as the other guy doesn't wander off.
Well, he's probably crying somewhere. If
Yeah.
the Asawira's gone down, he's ducked and is weeping somewhere, hoping he doesn't die, because the Asawira is the big daddy of this whole thing.
Every weapon the Asawir is armed with is AP.
Yes, yeah, I like the AP Spitfire Nanopulsar. He doesn't have the good CC weapon though. That's the only downside. He doesn't get the DA close count weapon. It's a shot close count weapon, which is still cool. But for 39 points, that stat line with the frenzy discount is amazing.
The bare bones, 32 points for this guy. Like, AP rifle's great. AP rifle light shotgun. You could step it up and give him the boarding shotgun if you really wanted to. Because that does get him the DA close combat weapon if you take the boarding shotgun. I just shoot them to death. Like, your BS-14, if you have to get into melee and you're berserking, you're killing whatever's in front of you anyway.
There's an argument to taking the doctor and putting him in a Harris. Like, taking 2 Muyibs, then take the doctor plus 3, take a Muyib, because then you've got an AP rifle, light shotgun, med kit,
Doctor 17
weapon, boarding shotgun even. It's not quite as shooty, like it's not quite as dedicated gunfightery as the AP Spitfire is, but he can then push buttons and stuff too with that sweet whip 14, and put the rest of his friends back together at whip 17.
He does also have stealth, so in the early game you don't even have to worry about those BTS hacking things happening around you. He just slides on past them all. It's only when the killing starts that becomes relevant,
or the Muyibs trigger it. The
Muyibs do trigger it, but they're not heavy infantry, so they
can be spotlighted and stuff too, though.
Which means I got a light on my shoulder. Yeah,
but lights. BTS line's great until you're hit by guided missiles, right? That's the problem. You don't want to stand too near to friends.
His Muyib is getting hit.
He's just like, just stand back 2.5 inches. Just
implying their missile bot survives the first turn because there are some special troops here that solve missile bot problems.
Yeah. We should probably move on. It's the IR.
Yeah,
Assassin IR.
Bakhtar.
Oh, Bakhtar, sorry. I thought it makes sense.
No, Bakhtar is after AR because A and then A. Don't think about it.
Okay, I'm not thinking about
it. So this look at it's a Shakush, but faster and stronger and slightly less accurate, but gained MSV, but also got mimetism, but also got super jump, and also has every kind of gun and weapon you could want in any kind of combination. It's great. And he can link.
He's active turn Sunday, basically. MSV 1, BS 13, Fizz 13.
He's active turn Sunday. When you don't want to bring active turn Sunday.
Yeah, he's not for 200 points. You could just bring both 2 Sonic Butts and Neurosynetics and 2 Bakhtars.
If there wasn't the 15 order cap, I would. And I would just fill it with Daylami and Mutts and be like, let's go.
Just take Takwar Bakhtars.
He gets the MSV and also mimetism, so he can kind of hunt other mimetism people, which is a fun thing. There are profiles like that out there, but they're not super common. And having super jump with BS 13 is great. Rifle.
An active turn dodging on 16s.
Yep.
To dodge 4 inches. He actually can move 6-4 if he dodges his second move.
Yep. And get away when things get bad too, because he can still reactive turn dodge on a 16. And because if you're not bringing, like, he doesn't have a super long range gun, so if you face off against like snipers, sometimes just dodging out of the way is going to be the way to go because they might outrange.
Sometimes dodging into melee. He's CC 20. Like, he doesn't have a CC skill, but he's CC 20 with a viral pistol. That's not nothing.
He's a shotgun though.
Sure, but like if you want to not be gunfighting at something that's like outclassing you in the reactive turn, just jumping up and going 4 inches into melee with your viral pistol, very often you'll outclass another gunfighter in CC with that CC 20, and the viral pistol is two damage basically against BTS, right? Like, let's say you're fighting an orc troop all of a sudden, danger close, you just dodge into melee and be like, let's do this.
Yeah, no, I can get that. I guess I think of it as like the light shotgun profile, like they all get light shotguns ish. And just shoot them. BS 19. Maybe if they have really mods, like big mod. It still has MSV. I get where you're coming from. I'd probably just shoot him though. But that's just me. Anyway, Assassin AR.
He's got an FTO option.
He does.
Paramedic Lieutenant Tackaware,
He has a parachutist option.
Viral Rifle, Bread Fury Boarding Shotgun. Basically, there's two versions of each of these guys.
Yep. There is Tackaware or not, and Paramedic or not, and then
Lieutenant
parachutist
Paramedic
or not.
yeah, or NCO. That's right. Yeah. Tackaware, Paramedic, NCO.
Exactly.
And they're all like 50 points.
They're pretty much, yeah. It actually gets more expensive when you make him the parachutist, NCO. But I would link this guy. Like, this is another one of those I'll link up with the rest profiles.
I don't know. I think I like him as he doesn't need it though. That's the difference. Is this guy could actually, because the fire team can't super jump.
Well, I like him with the Lasiques because they can climbing plus.
But he can't do it in the same order. So he's one of them standing around at the same time.
That's true.
I don't know. I like this guy as like a lone gunfighter. I like this guy as like a tactical piece going up on roofs and hunting stuff down. But again, he suffers from you if you're trying to fill that 15 order thing. And we're going to talk about the next guy,
who's a better version of that lone gunfighter in my opinion. Because he's the AR, PS13 as well. He lost a little bit of CC, but he gained Hollow Mask Hollow Projector and surprise attacks -6 with his Hollow Projector.
Huge.
Especially on a guy who's armed with either a shock marksman rifle or a breaker rifle, or Panzerfaust.
He's got a Zapper, which is a baby Emarat too, which is cool.
Yep, that's for emergencies. I keep this around.
He's not going to gunfight big stuff. The breaker rifle even isn't necessarily great at gunfighting big stuff, but he will definitely take out, like, he'll bully smaller pieces like crazy with that surprise attack. He'll be great for digging out people that even have visors and stuff like that, because you're not leaning into mods that they can stop unless they're on like a fire team and have 6th Sense somehow.
Yeah, or they have the biometric visors, but yeah.
Viral pistol +1 burst is kind of cool. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, get up close.
Like the 41 point for deployment breaker rifle, Zapper, Panzerfaust, drop bear, viral pistol, and he can kind of do whatever he needs to do. And he is a specialist operative, so he's doing whatever he wants to do. And the way Hollow Projector works, being able to just turn back on if you end your turn out of line of fire, means that he's constantly going to be playing the shell game, and he can just toss some mines around corners early on.
And Minesweep with you too. Like, he can do that great thing where he sends his projectors to go get rid of those boost weapons, perimeter stuff, and mines. Yeah,
he's Yazbir +1. Like, you pay more for him, but he does what Yazbir does. So if you have the points to spare, I feel you take an AR over Yazbir. The only thing he doesn't do that Yazbir does is smoke.
And the smoke's a big deal. I'll be honest. I think Yazbir still has some likes for being cheaper, specifically.
Oh, absolutely.
And having that smoke and stuff like that. I like Yazbir's toolkit a bit more than this guy's.
I do, and I like the Panzerfaust. I like the
surprise
Panzerfaust
for sure.
On a BS13, because Yazbir's 12, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he is. A little bit more accurate, but it's only 5%. Right.
Let's talk about your best boy.
Sunduk Butt. We've talked about him before. The biggest change to Sunduk Butt here is that his AVA goes to 2. So for 30 army, you can have 2 Sunduk Butts.
If you haven't listened to the previous episode, he's a heavy infantry with structure. He's remote presence, so he's not a real boy, but he's not a remote, so you can't support wear him.
That's deliberate.
Be deliberate. And he's got 2 versions, and he's got 3 versions, and each one can be taken either active or neurokinetic. That's the slightly more points taken neurokinetic typically.
No, it's the other way. It's actually the neurokinetics are the same.
Well, it's 52 points for neurokinetic Fearbach or 50 for the.
Oh, okay. Active. I guess I'm just so used to the first 2 profiles there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because he gains Mine Layer.
Yeah, Mine Layer is the one that's more expensive. Yeah.
Well, it makes them the same as the neurokinetic one. But yeah, BS attack +1 damage, camouflage, decoy, courage, forward deployment 8, shock immune, surprise attack -3, viral rifle +1 burst, chain rifle +1 burst, or Fearbox or AP Spitfires with light shotguns.
Yeah. So Owen's big theory with these guys is that they represent my opponent's going to use his own orders to kill himself running into these, not knowing which one's which. Because you're going to have 2 markers for this guy at size 2 that have no mimetism. And this is a reason in and of itself to take 5-day Lamis. because they have the exact same marker state. So you could have 9 markers if you take 2 of these guys on the table. Your opponent doesn't know which one's Delamies, which one's a decoy, or which one's a neurostatic vial rifle.
Significant difference to get a neurostatic Führerbach to a Panzerfaust to a chain rifle to a vial rifle. This is a lot. It's scary. Active turn, I think there's a case to be made, like surprise attack on that first attack. There's the mine layer profile. So he's putting out 3 markers, one of which is a -3. They know it's a mine, but who cares? It's a mine. Deal with it. It's just another thing that he gets going for him. And it's built on an armor 4 2-structure remote presence, which means that engineer that I've said has a hard case in this faction because there's not much to fix. This is the guy to fix. Because you can
you take one of each. I still say you take 1 neurostatic and 1 active, and that way you have the ability to do both. I like the mine layer.
I do like the mine layer. He's my favorite. I care less about the long range weapons, I find, especially in Assassins here, because the Delamy are around. That if I want just like throwaway shots, I can do that. Or I can have a Lasique with a viral sniper, or I can like there's choices there. I'd rather him be up in your face, just shooting you to death. And 4-shot viral rifle, damage 14 is no joke.
No. Definitely not.
The most annoying thing about the profile is you got to figure out which one's which, and if you don't do it properly, you just lose a piece. So often to get rid of it, you got a piece trade. Like it's 50 something points, right? So you can put like a 30-point model that's really tasty out, have them die, and then you can shoot off the board. But it's not easy to shoot off the board with armor 4, probably going to be in cover.
It will be in cover.
And 2 structure. So it's just like armor 7 you're dealing with, and you're like, not everything kills that, and it can still shoot back at you with 4 dice. So you're like,
it's a lot.
You think that you go into melee with it because it's not great in melee, but then it double taps you with chain rifles on your way in, and it's like, kill me. It is it's a model, all right. It exists in the game, sort of like the Shakouche.
It's definitely what you're taking 2 of too. Like this is your new favorite trick in this faction when you combine it with all the other crazy midfield disruption, peace tradey arrow stuff that you can do. I think it fits perfectly into what Baram does, and I'm excited you can take 2 of them.
What if you pair the Asawara with a Shakouche? I don't know why.
Is it FTO?
No, but the Asawara can join its duo of Shakouche.
Oh, the Shakouche. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
we've moved on to the next
tags. Yeah.
The tag.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much else to be said about Sunday.
This is the assassin tag. So in any, we talked about the Shakouche before. We made jokes about it. We kind of bagged on it, but this is the faction where he actually shines because he's not an Asawira. 3 structures legit. Right, having 3 structures great. Being immune to shock, being tackle aware 2 orders, having +1 damage, having an AP Spitfire, damage 15, heavy Spitfire, heavy flamethrower is great. Like that's a great profile. That's a profile that will kill other tags because it gets into their 0 range, right? And we'll start to brawl with them and stuff like that. I think he has a spot here, but you have to build a
6 points gets you 2 Asawiras.
I think an Asawira is great. I think that the Shakouche, I think the Shakouche has a role in this faction because there isn't anything else that's quite the same as him. I still don't think I'd rather take him over taking 2 Asawiras. I think you're right. But in any place the Shakouche is going to shine, it's going to be in Assassin Baram, and this
all it took
where he's
was we removed all of his competition, and now he's the best tag.
When he's the only tag, he's the best tag.
He's certainly a tag. He's so cool looking. That's what bothers me. Like the new model, if you've seen him, he's sweet with his big red sword, and like it looks like he's about to fight, and he's armor 6, and he's like, I'm gonna get beat up, aren't I?
Well, he's only size 6 too. He's just super tall, heavy infantry. He's on a 40 mil base, right? Like he's a stingray size tag, right? He's the size of a Tikbalang. So I like him personally in this faction, but I think you have to make a list around.
I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to build when we were talking about what my off list would be, and we'll probably get to that a little bit at the end. I was trying to figure out how to make Shakouche work because I'll just use another because he comes out a week after Carbonite, the actual model, so I can't get it. But I've got a sea of little tags that could do the job.
Sure.
But I don't know. I liked it with Yara if I was going to go first, and she just drags that Shakouche 4 inches further up. I don't know why. I don't know what you would do with that. Like, it's not better than the other links, but I think the Asura tag teaming with him.
How about this? I'll make for tonight when we do our list at the end of this, I'll make the Shakouche list and try and make it work. I'll see if I can make a Shakouche list that has some legs. I think it'd be interesting. All right. So that was the tag.
All the remotes, they're the same as everybody else.
AVAs. Yeah, but it's the same as the AVAs. What's the thing you can get more than one of? You get 2 Rafiks in this one, which is nice. So 2 of your toolbox remotes.
You actually lose out on everything. You don't get the 3 Fanus remotes. You only get 1. You don't even get 2 of your little bots.
1 HMG, 1 missile launcher, 1 Fanus remote. Yeah, well, you got Barids, so don't feel bad. You only get 2 Nazmats. Interesting.
You only get 2 instead of 4.
Yeah.
And you get 2 Rafiks, but that's the same as like Task Force. They got 2 as well.
And 2 Camille's.
They basically took away your remote power because, let's be honest, you're not going to use it here.
And Barids are giving you pictures for days.
And you don't want to have 3 super cheap Fanus teamed up with Barids that exist in this faction.
Yeah, just killer hacking everything.
Farzans in our specialist troops are your infiltrating camouflage MIM3 stealth guys. They have a mine layer profile for 24 points, who I think is great. They have a chain of command for 28 points, which is expensive, but it gives you chain of command. And a lot of your lieutenant options in this are either fighting face first and getting killed, or they're swishy people who get killed as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a camo version of that, which means it's fairly difficult to sniff him out. And he has a boarding shotgun for when things get dicey. And then he can also be an FO, so you can get a specialist infiltrating camo guy for 23 points.
It's a lot of points for a chain of command, though.
The 28 for chain of command is
and
expensive.
No mine layer. Like, so you almost need to take the mine layer one with him so that someone can put a mine in between them, so you don't know which one's the the chain of command one, and go after it. Yeah. I don't know. I like Farzans. After talking about Al Hawaz and QK, it's hard to look at the Farzan and be like, this is the button pushing min -3 infiltrating guy. It just doesn't feel like it.
Especially because these guys don't need them. Because like the fact that like Yasbir is floating around in that middle field, or that your ARs are like 8 inches shorter, and like you've got other stuff to do. But I like him. I think he's got a home, depending on how you're building your, like, whatever your fist is going to be, like that punchy fight. Like if you're going to let that lieutenant be part of that front team, might be worth it.
Might be worth taking the Farzan. Yeah. I do like that he has baked in surprise attack. That's pretty cool, because a lot of camo markers these days and a lot of mem troops with camouflage don't have surprise attacks. Having surprise attack -3, he can actually do a bit of killing, right? Yeah. He does do that. Like, and honestly, he's almost a better option than the one we were talking about earlier, the medium infantry one.
Oh wait, that's the drop.
No, the other one, the light infantry one. Actually, sorry, the Nadir. Yeah, he's actually almost better than the Nadir because he's inexpensive compared to the Nadir.
The Nadir is only 24 for the SMG Flemish Spirit.
That's true. Yeah.
Like
they're cheap version, but he has full infiltration, which means he can get where he wants to be, and he can go back into camo state afterwards. He's also offset by not having camo.
If you bring him as FO man, he's like special. Like he's classified the guy. Like he can forward observe through the flash pulses. He can decharge. He's infiltrating. Like he's right there doing all the jobs you need him to do right away at whip 14
for 23 points. Yeah.
For 23 points.
Yeah, so, I think the FO is the winner for me there. And then, because the wine lake gives away which one's not chain of command, and if you need the chain of command, then the chain of command one too. But you're still looking to spend 50 points for the 2 of them.
Yeah, I like him as the FO guy, as just like.
If you need one button pusher,
who isn't
this guy's a competent button pusher. Who isn't Yasbir? Yeah, this guy's a competent button pusher.
Yeah, and then you get to the shining icons of assassins, the thing that makes them what they are.
Yeah,
which is the Fides.
Yeah, your impersonation troop for humans.
Yeah, they are the impersonation troop for humans.
What's that noise all about, Dan? Why would you make that noise?
Nothing. No reason.
Well, why? Okay, well, so let's explain impersonation because some people listening might not realize the implications of that. It's about the implications.
It's all about the implication.
It is all about the implication. You know, they won't deploy there, Owen, because of the implication.
Yeah. Look, I'm just saying that when I deploy my list and I put one smiley face down and I say I have a reserve model, it might be another one.
Yeah, there might be an implication of that.
The big thing about impersonation is that it's like super infiltration. The only requirement is you cannot deploy in your opponent's deployment zone without rolling a whip check to deploy in their deployment zone with no mods. So you can do that if you really want.
15. So you have a 75% chance of just being in their base.
And I have done this multiple times. In fact, one of our most recent games against Dan, he had his lieutenant, who I knew who it was because he's playing the alpha, tucked into a corner in the very back corner of it. And then because the alpha is on that like large base and the wall he was tucked up against, there was a space behind him in the absolute corner where I could slide in a smiley face, not touching him. And it was just like, hi. I'm prone beside you. Hi. Shaka.
You're just like,
there's no defense.
It's the Deadpool thing where the guys are behind the thing and he's just like, hey guys, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. They don't have a great stat line, in all fairness. BS 11, Fizz 12 is pretty cool. Whip 15 is great, and they are armor 1. And then they're armed with the basic Hawk Islam gear set. They've got rifle light shotgun or boarding shotgun, and then they have AP weapons or DA close combat weapons, but they do all have smoke grenades, and one of them has shock mines, who I've used before, but I don't tend to use anymore.
They are designed to do a fairly innocuous compared to like a speculo killer CC attack right away into a soft target. So typically you're gonna take the DA close combat weapon because it's got a better chance of landing. It does have a surprise attack. You're coming out of a marker state. Your martial arts level 3, so you're imposing a -6 typically, unless the thing is 6th Sense. And then you're going to be at CC 26 with a DA close combat weapon. So there is a very good chance, but the problem is it's infinity. A 1 dice face-to-face roll.
They might just beat you. So I find with my Fides, I very rarely actually go into melee. They tend to spend their time just wandering around, or they launch smoke when the time comes. They smoke on top of the thing that I want to get killed, and Yara or the Govads step up, and they remove whatever is hiding underneath that smoke.
It really is about the implication. The implication of having a smiley face standing around, having an impersonation marker standing around your stuff all the time, and you will paralyze opponents. It will make them second guess absolutely everything they're doing, because you might just decide that that's the moment where you're gonna do your thing.
The Link team is all gonna move. They all pass by this point, right? Boarding shotgun.
Yeah. So they are. I mean, we used to joke about taking 20 points worth of Mutawa Ghazis as your base cost. I think if you're playing into Assassin's Baram, one of your 2 lists, no matter what, has 2 Fides in it. It's just it's too integral to the list build not to do it.
I don't think you can not bring them in a Baram list. Like maybe you could, but my perspective of that would be like, well, why play them? Why play Baram? Other than that this exists as an option in here, because
the chaos they cause is so integral to, I think, the rest of what you're doing, right, where you have that midfield like mosh pit of stuff, because you're just creating so much uncertainty in your opponent. There's so many markers on the table,
and they're actually very difficult to get rid of, because the impersonation state that they have imposes, it's not like when a hacker does it. It's 2 levels of it, and the first time you try and discover them, it's at a -6 to try and discover these guys.
And then you have to succeed at it. And
you can't do it again.
You can't do it again. And
that's just grandma. Don't worry about grandma.
And then if you succeed the first one, you could then fail the second and not get it again. Mm-hmm. And so like right off the bat, these guys are 2 orders to get at minimum.
It's incredibly hard for Pano to spot these guys. with 12
A lot of people have trouble spotting these guys.
Yeah.
So from having less experience with this, and I just hold back my blue coats because they got biometric visor, they got +3 to discover. Like they're like meant to discover these guys. They get 1 discover off, which probably goes off, but then he just runs past.
You're forcing the commitment. That's what you're doing, is you're forcing them to commit. You're forcing them to go and do their run. And I think what Owen was saying earlier is very key to using assassins, is that they get so much done just standing around as impersonation markers, forcing your opponent to like either deal with them or completely ignore them. And at your leisure, you can reveal an attack. So I think the thing with blue coats is they force your like, you're going to take the damage now, you're going to take the damage later, but the damage later is keeping you from doing stuff now because you're afraid to activate things. The blue coat goes over and goes like, nope, we're doing this now. Someone's going to die, probably me, but we're doing this now. And then he's out. And
what happens is that with the blue coat existing, you can't have the Fide just stand there because you can't trade for a blue coat. Like that is a bad play. So you have to do the Fide run. But the thing is that what Dan is talking about is generally it's very hard for the blue coat to be in such a position that doesn't get him killed by something else in this menagerie of weapons, to be able to see the Fide, the entirety of its movement. Because generally they'll walk and be seen, and then they'll walk and no longer be seen. And they don't care if you succeed on that first one because they just go to other marker state. And generally, if they started on your deployment line or in it, 8 inches or 12 inches, because they'll have the move on the second scale, is more than enough to get them to where they needed to be to do the job they want to do.
I guess what I'm saying is all the blue coat does is force you to start to commit that thing. Yeah. Right. Because he's going to try and hunt you down active turn. And then you have to now make, wherever you're standing at that moment, you have to make that play. And it's like never going to be fun. It's going to be messy. It's not an antidote to impersonation markers, right? It just means that someone's banging the alarm going, nope, grandma's not right. Like, we got to go do this. We're doing this now. And you make it happen now so that at least whatever damage happens is done and you can get on with your life. Because I think so much of dealing with Fides is getting them out of, like, getting them just like revealed.
So right. So that's what I mean. Like, best case scenario, it goes in and attacks whatever it wants to attack. There's nothing preventing it. And if you have a lot of cheerleaders or whatever in the back line that aren't super good at dodging or aren't high armor or whatever, he just gets to attack him. And there's no
but you can lay mines around him. You can, like, if the
mines don't do anything.
They do, because they mean that once he's killed it, he's probably died too.
But that's fine, right? Because he's suicided to kill whatever it is, right?
Yeah, but
shotguns having template weapons is where this problem comes in. Yeah. The fact that he's armed with either of the shotgun profiles means that as part of his run, he's hitting multiple people. And if he takes the mine, it doesn't matter. Like, oh no, I might die, but like all these guys are taking saves. Sure. And that's what Dan, I think, is trying to say here.
And that's terrible when you have this thick backline like O12 does of relatively squishy leadership models that can be assassinated. Like O12, the way that Dan's been playing them is almost like the ideal target for a Fide. But that's why if I was playing O12, my list too, when I know I'm playing against Haqqislam and Assassins all of a sudden, is going to be Zeta Lieutenant and still take the Alpha for Candle Intelligence, but not have him be the Lieutenant. And make that guy to play next to the Alpha and hope he's the Lieutenant, let him go on a run for it, trade off and die, and then my Zeta walks around being like, sorry, sucker, it was me.
Second Fide is for.
Sure.
Like, but this is the thing.
A Fide is probably not going to assassinate a tag.
But he doesn't need to. He just needs to touch it. That's the problem. Like, he puts smoke down, and then he touches you, and he just starts wailing on it, and he kills it or he doesn't, and they can't do anything about it. Like, the Zeta can't get away from him.
I have to shoot into combat and hopefully don't kill myself, which happened once.
Yeah, which happened once, sure.
Or you're in combat in smoke, and I'm just dumping orders to just beat you to death with my DA or AP weapon.
Yeah, if he gets into melee, if he's coming into melee with you, you probably just stick him with the sticky gun, and then
like we're saying, this literal situation of the Zeta being there has played out in one of our games.
Yeah, I'm what I'm saying is that the Assassin Fide is a great model. It's not as dependable. In killing as it is in disrupting your ability to move around and do things. That's all. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Yeah. My point is, if he wants to attack something, there's nothing in the game that can prevent him from attacking it.
Probably
Yeah.
not. No.
The best you can
that's
do
just
is
my
remove
thing.
it after it does its
Yeah,
attack.
and that's what I'm saying is you make it make the damage now so that you're not dealing with the implications of having an impersonation marker just standing around in your deployment zone.
And for fun, you could bring another one if you wanted to bring Al-Zerbel, who is a shadow of his former self, but that's because of the martial arts change, not because of him.
Because he used to be burst 2.
Yeah, when martial arts 4 was burst 2, he was worth bringing, in my opinion. And having lost that, I like BS attack continuous damage doesn't justify a almost 10-point swing. Like an 8-point swing in this is a significant push because 8 points is a Daylami with a missile, 8 points is a Jammer Ghazi, 8 points is like there's a lot of people who want to fight for that 8-point slot. And he's just another one of the Fidays. But you could bring 3. If you wanted, you could put 3 Smileys down. I've done it. It's great. Like you bring 3 Fidays and a 5-man link team, and you just put the Fidays around their deployment, and then you just wander around with your link team.
He does have the viral CC weapon still too. He's got a sticky hand, which is great.
Yeah. Viral is still great. DA is pretty good too. Viral's great. And then the last profile is McMurrow, who no one ever uses. Pretty sure he's bad. I read that on the internet.
Really, none of them was bad.
Yeah, they told me that.
Yeah, he's going to be best friends with 2 Mutawagazi Emirats, I think. I
He's
like
surprisingly good friends with Fidays as well.
Yep.
But this is
another great disruption piece.
This is the crazy thing about assassins is that they're built so well to go second. But if they go first, the disruption is just insane. And it's just kind of like, yeah, if you have like a crazy just elite high armor army, I mean maybe their first turn isn't doing crazy amounts of stuff to you, but the web of shit that they put in front of you for your first turn is just going to be crazy.
Yeah, they have unparalleled access to occupying the short to midfield with camo markers, a lot of which can have an ARO presence that you just do not know what it is and can trade up in a just spectacular fashion.
And so many of these guys are so good at what they do. Like the Bereed is an excellent hacker and he will do his job. And the Daylamis are excellent Panzerfaust launching mechanisms.
And I think that's when we started looking at those more mixed profiles of like multitask units, we were kind of, you get stuck because so many of the profiles in this list are dedicated to the one job they do.
The Nadir Shujay thing is a weird one to me though. Like it is the case that they are a mixed thing, like a mixed bag, but it's just strange that they're basically the same mixed bag. But other than them, and I'll put those aside because I don't feel that they're the thing that really gives the spirit of this list. Like Yazbir is an excellent solo guy and also great in a link. The Bereed is a great hacker. The Sikhs are great gunfighters, especially when you link them up. Leela, she's not as good here, but she's a good cheap point man for your link team of Ghulams if you want to go all in on the Ghulams, because you can bring her and Yazbir in the same team. If you brought your Bereeds just to be by themselves and turn themselves into Smileys, you can do that. Mutawiya, great solo bottles for sub 10 points. Like you are throwing so much stuff at your opponent. You've got Govads and Muyibs who are solid medium infantry. Like they're playing that 20-ish point game and they all have some kind of gimmick, whether it's MSV or the attack-aware bioimmunity shenanigans. And then you have access to the Asawira and the Bokhtar and the AR and the Sundukbut. Like if I was going to pick 4 heavy infantry that I wanted in any faction, probably these 4 again. Like, but what else would I want? A Swiss Guard, maybe.
Yep.
But the Sundukbut does that job.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if that's their strength, if that like disruption and the thing Dan's talking about where you're just presented with this, like, I have no good moves right now. Like, how do I untie this mess in front of me? Why is that the faction that you landed on for Colder Than Carbonite? Like, why was this the one? Why is that the thing that you like about Infinity in this list in particular for taking to a tournament?
I mean, the puzzle in Infinity is the best part of Infinity. Like, what do you do? How do you figure out your turn? And the fun is making it where there's never a good choice for me. Like, you can do whatever you want, and there are pros and cons to every choice that you're going to make. But I'm going to make it so that there's so much like weight on that choice that you're not going to come out on top. Like, you're gonna move your link guy around because you need to try and deal with the smiley face that's literally in your deployment looking at one of the guys in the link team. But if you move it, it also means that these 3 camo markers can see that guy, and that guy. And also, like, the list goes on. And then if you look back here, there's a viral sniper who's in a 3-man link team climbing plus against the side of the building, 4 deployed so that they're in range to hit anything that they want. Like, they can do all. And then, oh, I went first. Okay, this is an Asawira. He's good at everything. And he just runs into your army, picks a side, and he just starts cutting through it.
I feel like this list in particular, this army, can be built in such a way that you actually don't really care about going first or second. And there's a real power to that. Being able to flex between going first and going second, like in a really
and in the fact that you
way.
can do it in one list too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one list can play both sides. Like, you can have all the tools to go kill you and also all the tools to not be killed, like to
wait.
absorb that.
Yeah, to be happy to wait. Yeah. Like, to be happy to wait because you're forcing your opponent to react to you at deployment. Like, at deployment, you are creating a puzzle that's almost unparalleled in Infinity of like marker state models, mines, impersonation markers. Like, even in the other armies that can do impersonation, like the Shazvasti and Combined Army, you don't. They're more expensive than you are. You have access to cheap camo markers to just flood the board with, and you're making a lot of like bad decision making potentiality.
Even the Speculo Killer is just straight up 7 points more expensive than a Fide.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, the Speculo Killer is better. Like, they have monofilament, they have a combi instead of the rifle light shotgun. Debatable if that's actually better. And the monofilament, but like, that's a Ghazi. I got another guy just wandering around because you brought that better version of me, and we're both disrupting each other in the same way. Yeah. And the fact that the threats are so like extreme too. It's not the sort of thing where like you can bring the Joan Payne train and be like, I don't care about this sea of shitty camo markers that are in my way. I'm going to kill everybody in front of me. And then the Sunduk button 2 Daylami Panzerfaust stand up, and you're like, uh-oh. How many of my 5 bursts do I put into the 4 burst guy? And then how many do I spread across the other 2 people that saw me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also the smiley face chose that this is the moment that he comes out to shoot the 3rd guy in the link.
It's legit.
Yeah. So I mean, this is why I, like, when I play Hak-Islam, Assassin's Baram is always the one that I'm like floating into, or I go into the generic like everything vanilla Hak-Islam, which I guess is the last one to talk about. And at this point, I will safely say that we have touched on nearly every single profile. I think vanilla Hak-Islam only has mercenaries that get added that aren't available in the others, and 2 actual Hak-Islam profiles that are not in the normal list.
Yep.
But then the conversation is, how does it all come together?
What does that flexibility give you the ability to do, which is going to be a whole other conversation, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. Which the thing to consider is this list that we've talked about and this insane ability to like react to your opponent. The Ramah Task Force ability to just hammer you with walls of types of special troops that can like peace trade or fight effectively at different roles. And also there's QK.
I think we proved that QK can make some interesting lists. I think they are underrated in their ability to get stuff done.
The hard part about QK going into the vanilla is they lose the parts that make them unique. They lose the mercenaries and they lose the yuans and they lose that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is a significant loss because they do want to.
But the other 2
be able
don't
to make some
lose
stuff
those.
up,
and they just
and neither does vanilla actually too. You're just trading off the ability to like do that all the time. Yeah. So then let's talk about for the weekend. So what is your core list so far that you think you've landed on for this?
the core list that I've landed on, the one list, because I don't know if I have a second one, involves having 2 Sunduck Butts, both of which are neurokinetic fire rifles, 2 Fidays, both of whom have DA close combat weapons, as well as rifle light shotguns, because I want the ability to potentially have to deploy them further away and still have the rifles to pick off pieces.
Right.
McMurrow, so that if I get to go first, which I assume I don't, I just always assume that I'm not going to get to go first. I have this like, here's a grenade. I have a Ghulam link team with a Lieutenant Ghulam, a Bareed hacker, a Ghulam doctor, and the NCO grenade launcher. And then I have the Nigerian engineer with 2 Nazmats, one of which, or each Nazmat will be nearby each Sunduck Butt. And then my second group is 5 Daylami Panzerfausts.
I love that.
The trick to the deployment here too is that all of the camo markers that you're deploying with the infiltration and forward deploy should be deployed in 8-inch triangles, because then you can't identify where the Sunduck Butts are.
Right.
And because you just have a Nazmat nearby the triangle, it also doesn't give away where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're in a situation where when you go out to try and find these, first off, they're all standing, so you can see everywhere all the time at the beginning of the game. You can, if you play the shell game and your opponent's like, I'm going to discover as my first skill, you go, do it. And maybe they get the right one, maybe they don't. Or you go, okay, fine. Everyone reveals and we take this guy down, whatever that thing is that's going to threaten me. Things like heavy duty HMG characters, like 2 wound or armor 5 kind of HMG stuff. You just have 4 or 5 people dump it all at the same time. And then you have access to a party posse of Ghulam specialists to go and do whatever scenario you need to do. If McMurrow can't bulldoze his way through and the Fidays can't just peace trade, or rather any odd things out that are threats, things like missile bots, things like TR bots, you can have a Fiday just trade its life to get rid of it. Maybe you live too.
And maybe, yeah, maybe you do live.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I love that list because I think that's the essence. I think you've done your best to boil down what is the essence of Baram, which is that no-win scenario, first turn deployment. I do think there is a second list in this faction that still plays those strengths and still has a bigger, wider variety. I just tried to write one. We'll see how it goes.
I think there is, and the big thing that you change, in my opinion, like right off the top, is the double Sunduck Butt.
Yes, and that's what I did.
You go to either 1 or 0, and you could go to 0 because
I went to 0. Well, here, let me tell you what I did. I'll tell you what I did. I went to 0. How
many Asawaras do you have?
I have 2.
Yeah,
I have a significant amount of beef. It's 5.5 S. So what this is, what's the SWC on your list? Like 2? Yeah, it's about 2. So this is a 5.5 SWC list. This is spending to get guns in this one. And I included the Shakoosh. With an AP Spitfire heavy flamethrower, because I like that profile better. And it's duoed with Yara to get that strategic deployment, because it's only 6'2", so it pushes it up the table a little bit more. I like
it. And it opens up its terrain shenanigans. Like you get the ability to hide.
Yeah. That's right. And it gives it an MSV to follow it along with an AP marksman rifle, so that when it runs into something it can't bulldoze with just like dice, now you've got that MSV2 to go and fight.
Yep.
I got a core Ghulam of 3 models, which is an Asawir AP Spitfire, a Ghulam Doctor +3, and a Barid Killer Hacker. I've got a Harris of Ghulams, which is an Asawir AP Spitfire, a Doctor +3, and a Ghulam NCO with that sweet smoke grenade launcher to hopefully get Yara into some smoke shooting, maybe, or to get people where they need to go.
Or just thud them with the grenade launcher.
Or just thud them with the
grenade launcher.
Yeah. I got McMurrow, I got a Nigerian engineer and a Nazmat, and that's group 1. So I got the Nigerian to keep people alive. Both the fire teams have pocket doctors to get everybody back to life if regeneration isn't an option. If you go down the active turn, you want to come back. I got McMurrow to go jam people up. And then in group 2, I still got 4 more models. I got 2 Matawa boarding shotgun Emarat smoke grenades. I got a Mutt with a chain rifle and Emarat, and I got a Daylami Camo 1 use Panzerfaust. So I still have that midfield jamming a little bit. This list wants to go first, though.
100%.
Right. This list does not want to go second, which means you're looking to win the roll. You do, but I think you still have enough like a reactive stuff to buy you some time to get going forward. But it doesn't have that turn 0 deployment that you lay into in normal hack. So this is a wanting to go first Hack Islam list that has a lot of fight. Like there's 3 avenues of AP Spitfire in this list, and that'll fight anything. AP Spitfire is no joke because unless you're total immune or you're AP immune, if you're a tag, it's getting inside that sweet 16-inch range where you're no good anymore with your HMG typically, and it's fighting you in that optimum zone. And Asawiras are no joke. The Shikush fights almost as well as the Asawira. I mean, it does actually fight better than the Asawira in that case because it's got to damage 15 AP Spitfire. And you've got a visor, you've got smoke, you got warbands, you can do intuitive attack to lock down heavy armor. I think if I was playing your list and I thought I was going to go up against heavy armor I couldn't deal with, this is the list I would take because this is the all anti-heavy armor. Between all the EM weapons you have access to, the smoke, and the AP Spitfires, you can crack like an unlimited amount of armor with this. I think militaries would get run over by this list.
If you got first.
Even if you don't, I think there's a lot of beef here to try and fight through. You're not gonna want to come near Emerats.
No Fide. No Fide.
But that's the thing, is this is your list too. You're not gonna lean into it. You're gonna do something different.
But why? That's what I was thinking.
What I'm thinking is if Fides are gonna bounce off, what I'm saying is there's gonna be some lists Fides are just gonna bounce off of. No matter what you do, no matter where you put them, they just the Fide has no place to go and no target. Right? There are some factions where you're just like their Fide's like, I don't know what my job is today. And so you want a list that has the opposite of that.
But the thing I like is that the Fides, their job is existence. Like they don't need to kill anything, right? Like that was always my and that was the case you were trying to make when we were going back and forth on it, was the threat, right? It's the implication. And you lost.
What I'm saying is sometimes you're just not a threat. Sometimes the Fide is just not a threat. There will be days when he just doesn't have a thing to go sit next to.
I want you to make a list that's Fide proof. That's what I want to see.
I'm not saying Fide proof. I'm saying where the guy doesn't mind whatever you're trading to.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, no, I dig it. I dig the double Asawara teams because Asawaras are amazing. Yeah, that makes sense to me. No Yasbir either for that middle sweep to get rid of all those like little runny bots that the Asawira. I mean, Asawiras are just run through it. They don't care.
That's right. Asawiras are a specific type of don't give a fuck.
Yeah. That's the only thing I don't like about my list is the lack of Asawiras.
You also don't have a lot of button pushers.
I got
this one's riddled with button pushers. Like riddled with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is once again like the concept of my list is that I am going to disable you so that you're like incapable of doing things, and then my guys are going to just wander around and be like, I push the button, and I go home. Your turn.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything.
And you have lots of this like presence on the table that's unknown to your opponent, so they're just constantly second guessing every move. I think the problem you're going to run into with your army, and this is a thing that you might want to think about, is I think you're going to watch your opponent run your clock down and you might not finish your games.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the problem with a reactive turn army, right? And this is a real thing, is if you're hoping that they grind themselves into Sunduk butts, they're going to sit there staring at the table for half of your game and you don't get to go to round 3.
Yep. I mean, the nice thing is that if they're stuck in a defensive stance like that, I can invest instead of trying to just remove them. Like if you get that vibe, the link can go up and try and do the objective real quick. Like spend the 10 orders, go do the job, and then get it. And that's the idea. But you're right. I mean, that's a problem in any game.
I'm just saying
This one
it's a
might lean into it.
particularly passive list because you are causing your opponent's brain to short circuit with all those camo markers, right? Like you may end up in a thing where you get very narrow victories, and it leads, because you don't have an active turn presence, it leads to you not having a wider score, not having that win by 2 every round to get those full 5 tournament points. And even if you do get the full 5 tournament points, having low objective point scoring rounds where you don't end up in the top 3 overall over 5 games, right? Because you didn't get the second round tiebreak, which is scoring objective points.
The nice thing about the scenarios chosen is that, with like one exception, they're fairly like kill everybody. Like they're zone controls and killing. With the exception being whatever the new version of highly classified is called.
I was gonna say the zone control feeds into you, but the
highly classified one,
case, yeah.
The other one is unmasking, which is a threat. Like that is the one that I'm most concerned about because of the exclusion zone.
Mm-hmm.
It involves guys who are in this list needing to go out and do things who don't want to go out and do things.
Yeah.
It's my only problem with this. The Fides can still do the job. McMurrow is weirdly good at a lot of that stuff because he's a character. Came up in the highly classified new version.
Yeah.
So I honestly think I might need to make a list entirely to deal with unmasking, and maybe your list is the way to do it.
I think my list is great. I think you should take my list.
Yeah. I figured.
I think you'd love my list. I think you should take it. I think you should play 5 games with it.
But what if it was just 3 Asawir?
What if it was just 3 Asawirs? I think you would
and
not have...
They put a glove on their shoulders and they just go.
I think you drop the Shakoush. I think if you took my list, because you don't have a Shakoush, and you dropped the Shakoush and Yara, and you made one of those Asawirs a lieutenant, you'd have 86 points to buy 2 Fides. And then a third something else for 30 something points that would make you happy. And then this list would be a nice active turn list that also had your model collection and enough crossover with the other list that you'd be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You could drop the Shakoush and Yara. You could make one of those Asawir as a lieutenant. You could take your chain of command guy, and then you could take 2 Fides.
Yeah.
And I think that would give you the active turn go that you're looking for that you don't have right now. And
unmasking
also
wants that Fide as well.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they're so annoying to deal with as you try and, especially because they've skipped that exclusion zone.
Yep. I think you remove the pieces I used because we thought we were going to try and use them.
Sorry, Shakoush. You immediately got benched.
That's right. I liked your hustle. But
that's why it's so
you're
hard
not
to
out yet, and it's so hard to catch you.
Yeah.
And then
when you come out,
is there a specialist Fide? No, there's no specialist Fide, is there?
No specialist Fide.
That would be stupid.
No, but you could take the mines ones because you've got the extra points here now, and then you go to who is the other guy, the one that we liked, which was Farzan's chain of command.
Yeah,
and then you get an extra Nazmat. And there you go. You're at $299 for SWC because you've taken the SWC away from the thing. And you got your 2 Fides and you got your Nazmat. And you got a chain of command now, so you don't care if that guy goes down. And that Farzan chain of command can also push buttons in the midfield because chain of command counts as a specialist.
Yep. And actually in that one, I think they get the bonus. The problem is that he can't infiltrate, so that'll slow him down too, because it's the exclusion zone, right?
Yeah, but he'll start closer. He'll still, he won't infiltrate, but he'll be at the 16 line.
I almost wonder if it's worth just bringing Yara and stapling her onto any of the links.
I don't think so.
The same points, and then it just skips that first order.
It does give you a visor too, because you wouldn't have a visor. You could drop one of the Asawirs for Yara.
Well, you just drop the Farzan. He's the same
Farzan, yeah.
Then just don't bring the chain of command. Maybe the link that has the Asawar lieutenant isn't the first one you go with.
Sure.
Maybe that's the second team that
and then you have the NCO in that one too with her. Anyway, that's the second size of that. And you could play around with it.
Yeah, no, I like that. Getting the Fides back, getting the Shakoush out of the list.
Kicking out the Shakoush.
Guys, you haven't asked about my list.
I was going to say,
you have
Dan,
a list?
What did you do?
What do, Dan?
let me tell you, it's nothing.
It looks like Owen's list. Did you just copy Owen's list?
It's a little different. It's a little different. It's got 2 Fidesz, a Sundeck butt, the 5 Daylami Group 2 that just kind of sits around, and it has McMurrow. But then it has 6 models that can be linkable.
Oh, tasty.
We got so you can be like, do you want to do you have the flexibility
Baby core
depending on what
Harris.
you're fighting.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a core, maybe it's a Harris, whatever. So that is a Gulam Doctor, Muyib heavy rocket launcher, a Gulam missile launcher, the Gulam NCO with the grenade launcher, and then Aswira with the AP Spitfire.
I like that. That's
Oh,
nice
and
list.
Leela Sharif as a hacker. Yeah. The
Yeah.
shot mark.
I only see
I think she
one-
could be a Barid, but I see what you're doing there. Yeah.
The one challenge is you don't have a lieutenant.
What? Oh, I don't.
The AP Spitfire Asawir is a lieutenant. That's
There you
the
go.
only difference. Yeah.
Problem
He's,
solved.
There we
he's,
go.
he's
Yeah,
eligible.
Or you can make one of the
You
Gulams.
clicked the wrong
lieutenant.
one.
It's like
Nah, I would just have the Asawir be lieutenant. He's so good.
The missile
Yeah.
launcher, grenade launcher, Leela is a 1, 2, 3. That's great.
Mm-hmm. I like that Dan's list for writing this was just whatever he hated playing against the most from Owen's army, which was Fide, Sundeck Butt, McMurrow, 5 Daylamis.
Missile launcher,
And then
Gulam
he's like,
actually
and
is
then
on
I'll
that
just
list.
play with whatever points are left. Like, what's terrifying about these last few games against Owen? And then insert other things that might look good.
Yeah. It's amusing though that like you criticize mine for having very few specialists and then brought even less.
Look,
You have a
look,
doctor, a hacker, and that's it.
Yep.
That's all you need.
They're built on 1 wound BS 12 or 11 guys.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll get the job done.
But I like the reasoning is you have to wade through all the crap to get to my side of the board, which won't happen very easily. So they just get to walk around and do whatever they want.
It is true that they usually get away with that kind of stuff. God, it even just McMurrow. Like if I get to go first and all of the camo just sits quietly waiting for its time, and then McMurrow bulldozes in and hopefully lives until the end of the round, and then you're like, I have to kill McMurrow and these 2 Fidesz, and there's a sea of camo watching me.
That list I wrote on has 20 orders.
As it should.
I'm just
There you
saying.
go.
Like,
Okay, so one thing we didn't say about the
this is a
Fidesz
shocking amount of orders.
is this got total. Oh my gosh, I thought I had it open.
Total terrain, so it can super jump in some of the missions.
it
Yeah,
can
the
super
Fidesz can
jump
super
as
jump. Yeah,
It's got super jump as a smiley face, and
That
that
did
would
come up.
actually get everywhere.
that can definitely
Always.
get up. Yeah.
I'm like, I deploy. It's like, oh, your Fidesz right there. I deploy a blue coat looking at you, like 2 millimeters away from you, being like, I know you're not grandma.
Well,
I
you
know
also
there's something up about
well,
you.
that's the thing is you
Doesn't
actually
matter.
can't even though enemy models consider you an ally for the purpose of making attacks and stuff like that, you don't consider them an ally, so you can't move through them. Right? You don't get all your normal things where you can walk through a silhouette equal to or smaller than you. So that super jump can come in really handy because you can literally just get blocked into a corner. And you can't climb because climbing breaks your impersonation.
Unless you have climbing plus, which they
Unless
don't.
you have climb plus, which they don't. They'll have super jump, so they'll be able to do that. They'll be able to make a jump skill as a short skill to get away from it.
Yep. Yeah, I like your list, Ash. I think, like I said, the only change is I would swap out the Farzan for Yara, and maybe I just toss.
Oh,
the
and you don't need the
engineer into group
Najaran. You don't need the Najaran anymore because you have nothing with structure.
two.
So
Oh, there you go.
You could buy something else for that
For that 21 point or
Yeah, like
22 points.
because you don't need the Nazmats either. You
Yeah.
can get yourself something else, some other fun button pushy
Oh,
piece, or
if I
take out
drop
Jabal.
if I drop the Farzan and that guy, I have 50 points. I know who costs 50 points.
You're 2 less orders then, but yes, I do see what you're saying. I know a guy who costs exactly that many points. I don't think I'd drop the
49.
Farzan because I think I'd still want the chain of command, and I like him having the bonus to push buttons too, because you're pushing buttons on 18s. Then in a tournament, you want to get that off the first time. I think it's well worth to keeping the Farzan to be able to do that. And I don't know, the engineer maybe because you do have some heavy infantry in there. There might be a reason to take them and not get stuck. I don't think there is though.
You bring the Camille Evo hacker in group 2.
Actually,
That's
you
what
could
you
just take
swap it.
Rafiq's. You could even just you could swap him for Rafiq and give yourself Sensor. That's not a terrible idea.
You put up fairy dust. I don't know what it's called now.
It's called fairy dust.
It is fairy dust. Yeah. Put up fairy dust at the first turn order. He's in his own little group with all the mutts. And then now your Asawaras are basically immune to hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Because like firewall mods on a BS9 guy who's also carrying a Bereed on his back just to solve those problems after they reveal themselves. I think that's a spicy meatball.
It's not nothing.
Yep.
There we go. I really, really like Assassin Baram just because it seems to play the game a bit differently. You can play it the same, like that second list. It's kind of more of the same kind of like, okay, I got my big boys, but like you can bring a list that's just so seemingly different. And I think it's the first that I've played against that's that different. That is like it's interesting. It's like it's that crazy puzzle to solve.
It makes it a new game again. It's that thing that I keep saying about it. The reason why I never get tired of playing Infinity is when I play against a different army or I play against a different opponent, I have a brand new problem set. And Assassins is one of those ones where it is a fairly, like, if you play against it regularly, you start to see the ones and zeros, but like it is a very different experience than playing against like a standard hyperpower faction like Yuqing or Pano, where it's like, oh, these guys are just kind of the equivalents of each other. You know what I mean? Like where you feel like you've kind of seen it before. You're like, oh, my O12 kind of has this. I see what you do here. You know, all our remotes are kind of the same. When you start dealing with like Fides and Mutts and all that stuff, it's like, what do you think?
There's something to be said too about the fact that like even knowing exactly what models are coming at you, where they've gone this time, and which combinations of them that you're encountering, like that sea of camo markers, like you could play this against these guys tons of times, and where they are and which ones are which, and like, crap, that one was the Daylami, like that'll get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, next episode, I think we should take a break from Hack for a minute and do a recap of Colder Than Carbonite, because I think that'd be a fun episode to do as like a mini episode, and then we'll end with a final Haqqislam episode where we do the superpower version, Haqqislam Prime. And in between now and then, hopefully
favorite model got taken out back and shot over the end of N4.
Who's that?
The Coom Rider.
Oh, I forgot Coom's not in any of the factions except for the standard one, is it?
And then they took out Kaysenbeg.
Yeah, but they left Zamira and Zulika.
Yeah, but Kaysenbeg made them regular.
I know. Well, there's a reason why they took out Kaysenbeg. He was too good. You do get chirp hammers. You do get some neat stuff in Prime as well. But
we'll get there. Yeah.
I think I say good luck to both of you on the weekend. I'm excited. Hopefully we'll get to do some mini episodes for people to listen to before this even comes out. Just you guys drunkenly recapping your nights and how it went. And I hope you guys do great. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you later. Night.
Goodbye.
Bye.